Time. It would be fabulous if we could get some senators here to Senate Education so that we can get started. Steve Glazer, excellent timing. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's hearing of Senate Education. We have 19 bills on the agenda this morning. We have 7 items on consent. Item 16, AB 1684 by Assemblymember Mainshine has been pulled by the author. We will have 2 witnesses, 2 minutes each going forward. And since we do not have a quorum, we will start as a subcommittee. And I believe our first author here is Assemblymember Aguiar Curry. She has item number 2, AB 324. Begin whenever you're ready.
Right. Good morning, Madam Chair and members. AB 324 requires the California Department of Education to develop standardized, effective, and measurable guidelines for the use of current AB 212 funds. AB 212 was a bill by Dion Aroner, adopted in 2000, that set aside annual funding to improve the retention of child care providers. This year's budget bill incorporates these guidelines for the new $195 million Early Learning and Care Workforce Development Grants Program. However, existing AB 212 funds are not held to those same standards, even though the 2 funds have the same purpose. AB 324 will simply link these existing AB 212 funds to the same guidelines outlined in this year's budget bill. We will be crossing amendments that do exactly that in the next committee. I ask for your aye vote. With me today is Erin Gable on behalf of First 5 California. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Erin Gable on behalf of First 5 California, your Early Childhood Commission. And we're here in support of AB 324. As we've discussed many times in this committee, the heart of every classroom, whether it's a living room floor or a traditional classroom, is the teacher. With 90% of brain development happening before the age of 5, the home and child care learning environments are key to every child's future. Child care teachers are among the lowest paid professions in the nation, with ever increasing standards of practice in order to impact child development and lifelong outcomes. AB 212 by Assemblymember Aroner was passed almost 20 years ago to make sure that the great expense of ongoing education and professional development for child care teachers did not come out of the teachers' pockets, and to address the high turnover rates due to a lack of compensation. After 20 years, a statewide stakeholder group, including our preschool teachers and the former assembly member, has recommended better standards for the teacher stipend program, which are contained in AB 324. These standards are based on the best practices being employed in the field today and will align with our Quality Counts California professional development infrastructure at the state and local levels. And finally, it will also align with the $195 million in workforce funds that were just approved in the final budget. AB 324 will leverage the existing teacher stipend program with higher standards and to expand the program's availability to all teacher types so that children in our early learning system can benefit from a supported teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Madam Chairman and members, Tim Fitzharris for Child 360 in Los Angeles in strong support.
Thank you.
Mackenzie Kirshenson on behalf of the California Alternative Payment Program Association in support.
Josefina Ramirez Natsana with Children Now in support.
Monique Ramos on behalf of First 5 LA in support.
Nirmala Dillman, San Mateo County Child Care Partnership Council in strong support.
Susie Marone, Child Care Planning Council of Sonoma County in strong support.
Irving Alvarez, Youth Justice Coalition, Brothers, Sons, and Selves Coalition, in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, before we bring it back to the committee, I think we have a quorum. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Leyva.
Here.
Leyva here. Wilk. Chang. Durazo. Here. Durazo here. Glazer. Here. Glazer here. McGuire. Pan. Here. Pan here.
A quorum is present. Now we will bring it back to the committee. Any questions, comments, concerns about the bill? No. The bill has been moved. Would you like to close?
I simply ask for your aye vote for the children of California.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember. The bill has been moved by Senator Pan. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 2, AB 324, the motion is due pass to Human Services. Leyva.
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk.
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang. Durazo. Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer. Glazer, aye. McGuire. Pan. Pan, aye.
That bill has enough votes to get out, but we'll leave it on call for additional members.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move to file item number 3, Assemblymember Medina, AB 331. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Today, I present Assembly Bill 331. AB 331 will require a semester-long course of ethnic studies to be a high school graduation requirement beginning in the school year 2024-2025. I will be accepting the technical amendments suggested in the analysis that will clarify that charter schools may also require additional local graduation requirements, just as school districts are authorized to do. I very much agree with the last presenter who said that in education, the teacher is paramount to student learning. And I would also add that what is taught is also important in student learning. So as a teacher for 34 years in Riverside Unified, and an ethnic studies teacher and a Chicano studies teacher, I saw the power of curriculum when students see themselves reflected in that curriculum. If they see themselves in education and see the history and the culture where they come from, taught and valued by educational institutions, they prosper, they blossom. And that education becomes empowering, and they become somewhat masters of their own destiny. And we have seen the testimony here in the Capitol, in different committees, from students who've done just that. Students who went on to get degrees in ethnic studies. Because ethnic studies has been in existence for 50 years. Ethnic studies grew out of the student movement, third world students of San Francisco State in 1969. But still, if we go to classrooms today, including the high school where I taught, Poly High School, and pick up a U.S. history book, we will see just a few pages, perhaps on Cesar Chavez, perhaps on Martin Luther King. But I would say that Cesar Chavez and Martin Luther King, as important as they are in our nation's history, is not the extent of African American or Chicano history, or that if we look only at Ellis Island, when we look at immigration, to the exclusion of Angel Island, we are not teaching the students the history of this nation. Or if we do not teach about what the governor of our state of California last week said was the genocide of the Native Americans in California history, we are not teaching the full history of this state or this nation. So we have an opportunity to take the rich history and culture, knowledge that's been developed by academics, by scholars in the last 50 years and included in the curriculum in the state of California, and offer that to the students of our state. And I'm proud that we have with us Assemblymember Luis Alejo, who first introduced the bill to create that curriculum. So I propose it is beyond time that this history be included. I ask for your aye vote on AB 331. With me today is Jose Lara, teacher in Los Angeles and coordinator of the Ethnic Studies Now Coalition, and Dr. Dale Allender, professor of education at Sacramento State University.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Welcome. You each have 2 minutes. Proceed when you're ready.
I guess I'll start. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here today. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm the coordinator for the Ethnic Studies Now Coalition. I'm also the board president of the El Rancho Unified School District, where we have an ethnic studies requirement for all our students in our district. And it's produced higher graduation results in our district. It's produced more empowered, more diversely thinking students in our district. I'm also an educator who has taught ethnic studies to help empower students, especially disadvantaged students who often don't see themselves in the curriculum, sometimes feel disempowered, think that they're not good enough to be able to go to college, think that they're not able to access higher education. And I've seen how telling their stories, how making them part of the curriculum changes the frame of reference. But it's just not my personal experience. It's also actually academic studies. In 2010, a study by the NEA compiled 18 different studies from across the nation. Every single study showed both social and academic benefits for ethnic studies. A study done by Stanford University of the San Francisco Unified Ethnic Studies program showed that students who took ethnic studies increased their attendance rates by 20%, GPA by 1.4 percentage points, and earned 23 additional credits. It is amazing the power of ethnic studies that can and does do. But one of the most powerful things is one of my former students, Queen Robinson, raised by her grandmother in a shabby apartment that is right down the street from down the street from Skid Row in South Los Angeles. I always remember her words when I asked her why was ethnic studies so important. How did the class transform her? And she said, "Mr. Lara, after taking ethnic studies, I have a little more pep in my step. I stand a little taller. I feel that my life matters now." Queen Robinson, first generation of her family to go to Cal State LA. She's in her 4th year studying music right now at Cal State LA. Absolutely amazing. I know the power of ethnic studies. I've seen it myself inside of the classroom, and it's no time more important for California to lead on this issue in a time when we see children, migrant children, in cages along the border, sending signals to our students that maybe their lives don't matter. And when we look in the curriculum, are they reflected in that curriculum? As a board member, I also see the practicality of this. How is this going to be implemented in our school sites? We've been able to do it successfully in El Rancho Unified School District. I've seen it unfold and expand in Los Angeles. I've seen the way San Francisco Unified is doing it. I currently work in Anaheim Unified School District, a Union High School District, where we're also looking at implementing ethnic studies. Districts across the state are looking at making this programs inside of the district, but they need support. They need help. Currently, the Instructional Quality Commission is creating a model ethnic studies curriculum that hopefully will be implemented, and this bill will help expand across the state of California. The children of this state need ethnic studies, improve our graduation rates, close the achievement gap, and the reality is that California leads in a multicultural society that's the future of America. We need ethnic studies now more desperately than ever. Senators, please vote yes on ethnic studies now. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. So the rules are 4 minutes, and I think we're probably way over, but I know you've traveled, and the chair's not here, so I'm going to go rogue, and I'm going to allow you to present. So, sir, proceed.
I appreciate that you
I was looking for a signal.
I'll make my comments brief. First, thank you for having me here to make these comments. I'm a professor in the College of Education at Sac State University, also involved in the Ethnic Studies Now Coalition here in Sacramento. When I've testified before this endeavor previously, we had data from Tucson, we had data from San Francisco Unified. Now we have data in our local region. And I just want to point out that students who have taken this class, some 300, 95 to 98% report, agree or strongly agree with statements such as, I know more about my history, I know more about my classmates' history, I know more about the history of my community. Further, I'm interested in knowing more history about my community. And finally, I understand that social justice concerns in my district or in my community are my responsibility to address. In West Sacramento, we have students saying that after taking this class, they have a much, much stronger sense of belongingness than ever before. And I believe that that sense of belongingness is part of what helps see the academic and social value expand beyond the ethnic studies course into other subject matter as well. I want to end with a quote from a student from West Sac. She said that After taking this course, I have such a deep connection with other students that I haven't had before. There's much more to say about this, Senators, but I'll stop there. Thank you for your time, and I urge you to vote yes on AB 331.
Well, thank you for your testimony. I didn't know you just drove across town to be here.
Just drove across town, sir, but I wasn't going to say that.
You kind of gamed the system on me, but that's okay. So that was actually
You know the level of traffic it takes to get from Sac State to
Hey, that's
no more
right,
forgetting.
that's right.
Yeah, you take that up with City Council. We're not involved with that. So right now we'll go to those that want to add on. So name, organization, and whether you support the bill. Thank you.
Nick Romley on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District in support.
Thank you.
Manny Rodriguez on behalf of the Education Trust West here in strong support.
Thanks.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz on behalf of the California Association for Bilingual Education in support.
Josefina Ramirez Natano with Children Now, strong support.
Kathy Hall with the California State PTA in support.
Tiffany Tran on behalf of CRAC in support, but I also wanted to say a bit. I believe that ethnic studies is an important course because so many students would benefit from the knowledge of the history, issues, and successes of their community. As a high school student, I attended 2 overnight host program events.
All right, thank you.
Oh.
I'm not really a nice guy, just playing one at the dais, so.
I'm Kaylin Kipling Mojedidi with the Council on American Islamic Relations California, and we strongly support this bill.
Thank you. Well done.
I'm Rhonda Rios Kravitz, and I am with Alianza, an immigrant rights group, and we strongly support this group.
I'm Marlon Jones. I'm in the Division of Criminal Justice at Sacramento State, and I am in support.
Thank you.
Janeth Rodriguez, California Faculty Association, strong support.
Jessica Lawless, California Faculty Association, strong support.
Jessica Wilson, Sacramento State graduate, in support.
Morning, legislators. Jorge Pacheco Jr., trustee for the Oak Grove School District School Board, and I'm in strong support.
Miles Watkins, recent graduate at Cal State East Bay. I'll be attending San Diego State this fall for my master's in public administration, and the Black Student Leader Caucus of the CSU stands in strong support.
Great, thank you.
Professor Kenneth Montero, former Dean of the First and Only College of Ethnic Studies, also lead officer for the California State University Ethnic Studies Faculty Council. Strong support.
Marta Escobar, Associate Professor in Chicano Studies at Cal State Northridge, and in strong support.
Thank you.
Rocio Rivera, on behalf of Revolutionary Scholars at California State University Northridge, in strong support.
Thank you.
David Selby, Department of Political Science, CSU Sacramento, and California Faculty Association, Capital Chapter, Political Action Coordinator, and Legislation Chair. Strong support. Thank you.
Erica Romero on behalf of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, in support.
Thank you.
Christopher Sanchez with Chair of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, in strong support.
Richard Torres with the California Dream Network, in support.
Leanna Sanchez, teacher in Sacramento City, in strong support.
Ashley Walker on behalf of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors, in strong support.
Alma Barreras on behalf of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, a sponsor of this bill, in support.
Margot Ronaldo, a student at Sacramento State, in strong support.
Ilsa Mimas, political science student at Sacramento State, in strong support.
Don Stoffer, high school teacher in West Sacramento, strong support.
Mario Guerrero on behalf of the California Faculty Association and also the adjunct faculty at Sacramento State, in support.
Elvia Olea, student at California State University Stanislaus, president of Indigenous Students and Activism Club, and strong support.
Thank you.
Dimson McFadden from Stanislaus State University, and in strong support.
Davika Bess, student at Modesto Junior College, majoring in psychology, in strong support.
Deborah Watkins, founder and president, executive director of a Black Education Network. And I did drive 2.5 hours to get here. But I'm here for the, I'll be testifying before the Assembly Committee to end the school to prison pipeline in shortly. And so I was like, oh, well, let me get over here and testify in support of this bill. As a veteran teacher of 42 years, one of the solutions to ending the school to prison pipeline is to adopt ethnic studies across the state. And I strongly recommend that.
Great, thank you so much. They'll give you a full 2 minutes over there.
Gina Whipple, middle school teacher, strong support.
Thank you.
Jennifer McAfee, middle school teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District, and I strongly support this also.
Thank you.
Julissa Ruiz Ramirez, student at CSU Stanislaus, double majoring in ethnic studies and political science, co-chair of MECHA. I and our MECHA chapter stand in strong support.
Thank you.
Mary Roth, Ethnic Studies Professor, CSU Stanislaus, and on behalf of the entire Ethnic Studies Department at Stan State, in strong support.
Thank you.
Ann Strom, faculty, sociology, gerontology, gender studies, and on behalf of that department, strong support at CSU Stanislaus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Kolnick, faculty in political science and public administration at Cal State Stanislaus, in strong support. Thank you.
Mishka Pearson, 21-year veteran elementary school teacher, strong support.
Thank you.
Lenora Gerber, third grade elementary school teacher and mom of a high schooler, strong support.
Stephen Filling, professor of accounting and ethics at CSU Stanislaus, support.
Preston Rudy, a professor of sociology at San Jose State, in strong support.
Luisa Menchaca, on behalf of the California League of United Latin American Citizens, in strong support.
Diana de Rueda, on behalf of the students of tomorrow, Black, Indigenous, Latinx, migrant, for quality education. I am an alumni from the College of Ethnic Studies at SF State, and if this bill doesn't pass, it would be a waste of what I've been going to school for. Please, let's pass ethnic studies, let's stop whitewashing history, and let's give our students the education that they deserve.
Austin Webster, on behalf of the Anaheim Union High School District, in strong support.
Thank you.
Dave Speak, the father of 3 beautiful women of color and a former trustee on the Claremont Unified School District, strong support.
Thank you.
With all our heart and our spirit, we're here on behalf of Ethnic Studies at Woodland Community College, and also as the former co-chair of the Indigenous Caucus of the National Association for Chicano and Chicano Studies. Please pass AB 331. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gloria Partida, and on behalf of the Davis Phoenix Coalition, which is a nonprofit that fights for diversity and inclusion and creating inclusive Davis schools, I am giving my strong support.
Eva Maria do Pico, second grade teacher at the Spanish Immersion School in Spanish Immersion School Cesar Chavez in Davis. I'm advocating for ethnic studies.
Thank you.
Good morning, buenos dias. Israel Villa with Milpa, community-based organization out in Salinas, also representing the Alliance of Boys and Men of Color and the California Alliance for Youth and Community Justice, in strong support.
James Martinez with Milpa, in strong support.
Kobe Pizzati, Vice President of the Washington Unified School District in West Sacramento, in strong support.
Good morning, Seth Brambo here on behalf of more than 300,000 educators and members of the California Teachers Association, in strong support.
Good morning, Alejandro Contreras, graduate student at University of Southern California, in support.
Thank you.
Irving Alvarez, Youth Justice Coalition, Brothers, Sons, and Selves Coalition, Youth Build Charter 2, in strong support. Thank you.
Erica Hoffman, on behalf of the California School Boards Association. We do have a supportive amendment on the bill, and that is for fiscal issues on it, but we are supportive of what the author is going for, and we greatly appreciate the work and the conversations we have had this year. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you for that. I have just been texted. I need to go to the Assembly to present a bill, so I'm going to put you in even better hands, because I'm going to pass the gavel to my colleague, Senator Glazer, who will do an excellent job.
There was no warning or training for that, just so you know.
Thank you,
Okay.
Senator.
All right, so that was witnesses in support, and I think as our procedures provide, we would like to invite up any witnesses in opposition. Is anyone here who wishes to speak against the bill? All right, seeing none, then we'll close that part of our procedure, and we'll open it up for questions and comments from colleagues here on the panel. Senator Pan.
Thank you, Senator Medina. And, first of all, I want to thank you for your testimony and that of your witnesses. And certainly, I don't think anyone, well, let's put it this way, certainly not questioning the value and the importance of ethnic studies. All right, I think that's something, and I know that, I guess the question is that in my mind is, why are we pursuing this route through the legislature? Curricula is through the California Department of Education. In fact, this committee has adopted rules to say that because we've had numerous bills where people wanted to put things in curricula and said that, well, we have a body within the Department of Education that decides these things, that we shouldn't be trying to legislate curricula. And in fact, this body decided, because we had people put various bills for various items of importance and so forth, that that we should basically, we can make recommendations or we suggest things to the body and indicate the level of support for that, but we shouldn't be trying to legislate the curricula. And so I think in many ways that's my concern, is that I would love it if every school district, that your bill is accomplished, but I'm not I have some concerns about this is the route in which we're trying to accomplish it. And so can you speak to efforts, I mean, I understand the analysis, this is actually sponsored by the superintendent who oversees the very department. I mean, why can't the superintendent and everyone said we should do this through the usual way that we're supposed to be doing this, instead of trying to impose it from the legislature, because there's many worthy things. And I said, ethnic studies, certainly, I think you make a very powerful case for ethnic studies. And maybe people can't make as powerful case for other things, but I think I am concerned, and you're a teacher, so I appreciate that your own experience, that you have to figure out how to manage a curricula. You have a certain fixed amount of time with students, and you have to figure out how to educate and so forth. And certainly, I think ethnic studies is a very important part of that. But at a certain point, it's kind of like I, as the educator, need to be able to, figure out how I put all the pieces together, right? So if the legislature says I want to mandate this course here and that class, and it has to be in a certain way, that can constrain. I mean, I think if we said you should teach ethnic studies, and that should be something students need to demonstrate competence in, and before they graduate, that's one thing. But then to start being very specific about more challenging. So perhaps you can speak to why we're not going through the Department of Education. Why isn't the superintendent? Well, you can't speak for the superintendent, but he's a sponsor. But I mean, why aren't we going through that route instead of this one, where we're basically telling the Department of Education they have to do something? I mean, you have a lot of support. We have a lot of educators here. I mean, it's great. So why do people feel like they can't go through the education route, through the education department, where we have educators, fellow educators there, and we have so much support in the education community that was expressed here? Why can't it be accomplished that way instead of basically from the outside, frankly? Yeah.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes.
I think it's an excellent question. So, as you mentioned, I was a teacher, high school teacher, and one of the subjects that I taught was history, and got a master's in history. So I feel I'm somewhat competent in the field of history.
I will recognize you as an expert in this.
And I would say that it is not, I agree with you, that it is not or shouldn't be the legislature's role to write curriculum, to say what classes should include. whether it be history or foreign language or math or science. It is not the role of the legislature to say what should be in the curriculum. And this bill doesn't do that. This bill doesn't do that at all. As I mentioned in my earlier remarks, we had Assemblymember Alejo who introduced the bill that asked the Department of Education to create the curriculum. They have done that now. That curriculum that they created with input from teachers, from academics, from people in the field, they developed a curriculum. So we, the legislature, are hands-off on that, as we should be, as we should be. I think it would be dangerous for legislators to say what has to be in the curriculum. So we did that. We did that with Assemblymember Alejo's bill. But that's what that bill did, created curriculum. Now that we have that curriculum, I think that we are going the correct route by saying we have this curriculum developed by experts, input by a broad variety of experts, including teachers. But we think that curriculum is important enough that it should be taught everywhere in the state of California. And that, I do think, is the role of the legislature, to say what should be the requirements for graduation, certainly for high school students. And later today, there is a bill that I am co-author on asking or telling the CSU that they should do the same. And that's an even bigger step, because I was a community college trustee and respect the differentiation between giving the faculty power in the college level to have all things academic. But as I said also in the beginning, it has now been 50 years. It has been 50 years since struggle, because it came out of struggle, of students, diverse students, who stood up and said, you know, we don't see ourselves reflected in the teachers in front of us, in the counselors at the high schools, in the administrators, in the curriculum. So it was out of that struggle that these classes, that this came out of. And we've now seen 50 years where nothing has changed. We are seeing some districts throughout the state of California seeing the value of teaching ethnic studies and including them. And those include Davis, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles. So we've seen many districts choose and to make it a requirement on their own. But I do think it is the job of the legislature to look at things holistically and to say this needs to be taught. This should be something that everyone in the state of California is competent. As a teacher, I do not see how, if I could mention someone who's respected, Tom Brokaw, someone who is respected nationally in the United States. How is someone like Tom Brokaw, the newscaster, to make comments about Latinos not knowing enough English or not trying hard enough to learn English? How can you think of that person as being fully educated when they make statements like that? So it is that knowledge that we have, that we are saying students who don't have this education are lacking or should be competent in. I do think it is our role to say they should have that knowledge.
All right, any other questions or comments? You had a follow-up, Senator Pan.
So first of all, Senator Medina, first of all, I tremendously respect you not only as Assembly member, but also as an educator. And I appreciate you bringing this forward in your discussion. I still continue to have concerns as someone who was a professor in higher education as well, about exactly our role in dictating curricula. So you're right, we did have a process where, there was curricula were developed around ethnic studies. I think the way the bill is framed, where it requires a particular course, I think it is a little concerning, is still concerning to me in terms of, I support the idea that people should have, and believe me, as a person of color who grew up who didn't see very much of, myself or, I hear what you're saying, and I think that certainly I agree with you. There is a lot of there is tremendous ignorance of the history of many of peoples who actually who not only live but contribute to our country, that people are not aware of the history of. And I admit myself, I have ignorance in many areas as well, and through my own education, as much school as I've gone through, probably more so than many. But I as an educator, I still have concerns about not what you're trying to teach, but which I think is extremely important. You've made a very powerful case. Your witnesses have made a very powerful case. I think it's the route which we're going to in terms of trying and how we're trying to dictate it. And I have concerns about the legislature doing that versus other mechanisms. But I do appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Durazo.
Yes, I too want to thank you. I'm sure every single Chicano, Latino, African-American who went through the struggle over the many decades in the past can point to our own stories of the impact that taking a class. So your story applies to me many, many years ago of not ever having read anything in the history books or in any book about the contributions and the presence other than Native Americans in not in a very positive way, in a very negative way. So I appreciate everyone's role in moving this forward. I would, with regard to my colleague Senator Pan's concerns, I would normally have the same concern. I would start out with that concern because we do want to limit what the role is and make sure that it's absolutely an essential part of what our responsibilities are. But having been through the struggle and having seen that, like you said, at least 50 years ago that this started, that time comes when legislature has to step in because it's not getting done. And we're of the mind, we do that in a number of subjects, in a number of areas. We do that with health. We do that with other things. When it's not getting done right, government has to step in to correct it. I would prefer, in a much, much bigger way, I would prefer that we didn't have the requirement of specific ethnic studies. I would prefer that history books included us without having ethnic studies required. I think it's shameful. I think it's shameful that women's roles, the LGBTQ role, that the role of ethnic groups, I think it's shameful that our history books do not reflect the truth of what has been the history of this country and of the world. So I think there are times when we do have to step in, and I think this is one of those few times. So I appreciate and support you.
Very good. I want to share my thoughts as well. First, I want to thank you for your leadership in this area. I want to thank Assemblymember Alejo for his leadership prior to you, and there's so many others who have tried to lead in this area, not necessarily through legislation, but through activism on our campuses and in our communities. There's no doubt in my mind that ethnic studies is a critical point of understanding for us in California, for us as a society, that without that type of understanding, and tolerance, our whole cohesion as a community, as a state, as a country, as a world, is in jeopardy. And so it is so important that we have that understanding. The dilemma for me in your bill, though, is similar to Dr. Pan's issue that he has raised. Now, as I understand it, the legislature in their wisdom has directed that model curriculum be established in this area, and that we are in the process of doing that right now.
It's completed, Senator.
Okay, according to the analysis, it says that the Instructional Quality Commission has to submit the model curriculum by December 31st, 2019. Have they already done that?
Right. The model curriculum has been completed. It is now my understanding, and if there's anyone here from Department of Education that might correct me, but the model curriculum has been completed. It's about 400 pages. It's on my desk, and it is now the time for public review of that model curriculum.
And that's consistent with the analysis. The analysis says that there's a deadline for completing the draft. It's going through that review process, that the State Board of Education has to adopt the curriculum by March 31st, 2020. So we have a process in place. You just acknowledged that, which is good, that they're trying to provide, with good wisdom, this model curriculum for how the schools can teach ethnic studies, right? In the effort to try to promote and encourage our school districts to teach ethnic studies. So that process is going ahead, and with a March 2020 deadline for the State Board of Education to engage. So the dilemma for me is that typically when the question of is there a compelling state need for us to get involved in all kinds of things, you have to look and say, okay, what's the progress of the work being done? And are there roadblocks to it that we should be aware of? Or is there opposition to it that we should be aware of? Have school districts had the chance to enact this and they haven't taken those steps? These are all the questions that go through my head. And I guess that leaves me short to the extent that we haven't even given them that model curriculum yet, that there hasn't been the engagement that I'm aware of, and maybe you can share what you know, where school districts have said, no, 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 no. We have 1,000 school districts. Have we given them the chance to do the right thing? Because clearly their work is lacking. We agree. When I see how many kids are taking ethnic studies, 1%, that's embarrassing. And is that our fault where we're not providing that curriculum? Or is there some other place where we can be working together to make that better? But that's really my first question to you is what have we done to give the school districts their ability to do the right thing before we step in?
Some school districts like Davis that recently adopted ethnic studies, as recent as last month, have said, why wait for this legislation to get passed? And they have said that at their meetings, at their board meetings. And we saw here several school board members in support of this bill. I know that I would say that everyone here who has testified would share my own concern that it is one thing to create curriculum for Department of Education. It is another thing to implement that curriculum. And so Department of Education sometimes creates curriculum like they did for the Cesar Chavez holiday or perhaps the Holocaust. But it is another thing to see that curriculum implemented in the districts. And I would be very happy if every one of those 1,000 school districts across the state of California did like Davis or Santa Barbara and on their own said, we're going to do this. But I think they've had time to do that already. You know, it's been, again, 50 years. I am not going to live another 50 years, but I would hate that my great-grandchildren would still be having the same classes, being taught the same things that are being taught today. I would respectfully say that what we are trying to do is get both things on at the same time, that when the curriculum is ready, because our bill says that this would become a high school graduation requirement in 2024, 2025, giving school districts ample time to prepare, train their teachers, get the curriculum. So we are working hand in hand with the Department of Education. As you noted, they are a sponsor of this bill. And Tony Thurman, State Superintendent, was with me when we presented this bill in the Assembly Education Committee.
Well, again, thank you for your leadership in this. I think that is the issue that gives me pause, not about the belief and the desire to have that understanding, that broader understanding of our world and our classes, but that we seem to be on a track to provide the model curriculum, and that hopefully have our educational leaders take the right steps to incorporate it. And I think that's a better process to play out than us creating a mandate right up front, even though for such a good and important cause as you promote. So that'd be my concluding comments.
Any other questions, comments? All right, before I entertain a motion, I just want to thank you for being so dogged in this. I believe that Assemblymember Alejo had this bill when I first came to the Senate, and I was happy to vote for it then. I voted for your bill last year. I will be supporting it this year. We are working on model curriculum, but I think what I worry about is exactly what you said, Assemblymember. It's been 50 years, and sometimes we can not rely on people and wait for them to do the right thing out of the goodness of their heart. And our job is to legislate, and legislating this is meaning that people will be forced to learn about each other. And guess what? When we learn about each other, we're going to discover that we have more in common than not. And maybe it will create a better world, because then we'll understand each other and we won't dislike each other. So I appreciate you being so dogged in this. Happy to support it. Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, I had to step it. Okay, the bill has been moved by Senator Durazo. Would you like to close? Sorry.
Thank you, Senator. I very much want to thank all the witnesses, the students, the teachers, professors, the very diverse group of people from the whole state of California who've come to testify on behalf of the bill. And in closing, I want to say, I have with me today Veteran of the Year teacher Ray Saucedo, who taught with me at Poly High School for 13 years. When filmmaker Ken Burns did his epic documentary on World War II, there was not one Latino veteran in that 5-part epic story of World War II. We know that African Americans, Asian Americans, Latinos fought in almost every single war that this nation has been in. And to create something like that and omit Latinos is proof of why we need ethnic studies. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblymember. The bill has been moved by Senator Durazo. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 3, AB 331. The motion is due pass as amended to appropriations. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Wilk? Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer? McGuire? Pan?
Thank you, Assemblymember. We will leave that bill on call for others to add on. Thank you. Appreciate you guys going so long that I could present a bill and come back, because I wanted to say something about your bill. All right, Assemblymember Eggman is here to present for Assemblymember Lowe. That is file item 1, AB 130. Assemblymember, begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and senators. And I had uncles who were paratroopers in World War II, Latinos who jumped out into behind enemy lines. AB 130 establishes the Higher Education Performance and Accountability Commission as the statewide...
Assemblymember, one moment. If everyone in the audience can just be a little quieter so we can be respectful of our author. Thank you. If you have a conversation, take it outside. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. AB 130 establishes the Higher Education Performance and Accountability Commission as the statewide post-secondary coordination and planning entity. We have, in California, we have been without a planning entity to cover our community colleges, our CSU, and our UC since 2012, when the system we had in place was defunded in 2011 after it was as the state was going through very hard budget times, it was continuing kind of chipped away at. And that leaves us, I think it was only one of 2 states in the nation that does not have an overall coordinating body. Coordinating for our goals, coordinating for where we might have a new campus, overall, how the students are doing. And so as we stand right now, and when we talk about leaving no student behind, and we know there were 30,000 California students without a seat last time, and the new audits we hear all the time about sometimes money not being spent as it was accounted for, it just seems to me that it is now the time to reinstate the overseeing body that would be able to serve this, and I'm also aware that there is another bill moving on the Senate side, and we realize at some point we will have to coordinate the 2 of those bills, and we stand ready to do that. The commission was born of the 1960 master plan, and we went a long time being the model for the world. I think, as we all know, with budget cuts, we've taken some stumbles, and we think putting back into place a coordinating body would serve that. And today I have with me Jake Briner with the Campaign for College Opportunity to speak in support.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Leyva and members of the committee. My name is Jake Bremner. I'm the State and Federal Policy Director with the Campaign for College Opportunity. We're a statewide policy research and advocacy organization dedicated to ensuring that all Californians have an equal opportunity to attend and succeed in college. I'd like to first start by thanking Assembly Members Eggman and Lowe for their leadership on this issue and express our support for AB 130. We know that in the coming years, California will need a growing supply of educated workers to meet the demands of our dynamic state economy. And key to fulfilling this need will be ensuring the access and success of populations that have been historically underrepresented in higher education. Yet, as Assemblymember Eggman pointed out, California currently stands as one of only 2 states without a statewide coordinating body for higher education, meaning we lack the state-level leadership responsible for planning, oversight, and coordination to position our state to meet these challenges. We need a body that is not representative of any one sector or segment, but rather understands the broader needs of the state and can facilitate the necessary conversations, analysis, and expertise towards these goals. While imperfect, the former California Post-Secondary Education Commission was able to offer enrollment projections, assess regional demands, critical information to informing policy and budgetary decisions. In its absence, the Campaign for College Opportunity and many of our partners are asked to help fill the void in various ways, which is neither sustainable nor ideal in a state with systems as large and complex as California's. AB 130 recognizes this critical void and establishes state-level leadership positioned to confront these challenges. Importantly, it also presents an opportunity and means for the state to articulate a long-range vision for higher education with clear and actionable goals for ensuring college access, student success, as well as closing the racial and regional equity gaps that are necessary to meeting future workforce needs. So with that, I thank you and respectfully urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Is there additional support?
Good morning. Manny Rodriguez on behalf of the Education Trust West here in support.
Thank you.
Mary Washington with the Cal State Student Association in support.
Good morning. Buenos dias. Magali Kincaid with Public Advocates in support.
Diana de Rueda, alumni from the CSU systems and aspiring educator of higher education in strong support.
Anyone else in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments, concerns? Senator Glazer.
Thank you. I'm pleased to see your bill and happy to support it today. And it does match up. Senator Al and I are joint authors on SB 3, and our goals and desires are all very much aligned, and look forward to the partnership and getting this over the finish line. So thank you so much, and thank you so much, Member Lowe.
Thank you.
Senator Glazer, is that a motion? Thank you very much. Assemblywoman, would you like to close?
I just look forward to establishing this independent body to better serve 3 million California students.
Very good. Thank you very much. The bill has been moved by Senator Glazer. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 1, AB 130. The motion is due pass to governmental organizations. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Wilk? Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer? Aye. Glazer, aye. McGuire? Pan?
We'll leave that bill on call. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to file item number 4. Assemblymember Ting, come on down. That is file item AB 1001. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
First, let me just thank you and your team for your amendments. We're more than happy to take the amendments from the committee. I was honored to be, yes, I was honored to be on our Speaker's Blue Ribbon Commission on Early Childhood Education. One of the things that we found is that we really needed better local planning and better local data. And so AB 1001 does exactly that. It changes the membership of local planning councils into new strategic planning councils, which have representatives from early childhood education across the spectrum, including providers, parents, as well as educators. It also sets clear expectations in regards to data collection and standards, and makes it clear who the responsible parties are in regards to the council as well as the Department of Education. It also gives counties the flexibility in the membership of the council to help make the model fit both for big counties and for small counties. I have 2 witnesses here to speak in favor of the bill.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Witnesses in support, you have 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Madam Chair and legislators. My name is Nirmala Dillman. I'm the coordinator of the San Mateo County Local Child Care Planning Council. San Mateo was the first one to be established, and I think we have a lot of strength behind us because of the history, et cetera. This bill would, well, they were developed in the 90s. A lot has changed. First 5 didn't exist. QRIS didn't exist, many things. This bill will really update, as the legislator said, the membership, the mandates, and the local clout of the institutions. It will give a partner at the state level when the state's making this tremendous new investments in early care and education. We need a body where everyone has a voice at the local level that will ensure that these investments are used efficiently and well at the local level, particularly things, if you can imagine, like facilities. It's hard to tell from the state level where they're needed, how they could be established, who's left out of the picture, which voices are not at the table. We really think this bill will bring the strengths that some counties have been able to establish locally and make that possible for all counties across California.
Very good. Thank you. Next witness.
Madam Chair. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Assembly members. So my name is Susie Marone. I am the Child Care Planning Council Coordinator for Sonoma County, and I too support AB 1001. It really, like my colleague Nirmala mentioned, brings together the local voices and strengthens what we already do as Planning Council coordinators across the state of California. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Do you have remaining time? Did you want to? Okay. No, God, no, don't call on me. Witnesses in support.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Jeff Vaca, representing the Riverside County Superintendent of Schools, in support.
Madam Chair, members, Nick Romley on behalf of the Santa Clara County Office of Education and also on behalf of the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, in support.
Erin Gable on behalf of First 5 California, in strong support. Thank you.
Monique Ramos on behalf of First 5 LA, in support.
Any other witnesses in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, we'll come back to the committee. Questions, comments, concerns? The bill has been moved. Would you like to close?
Yes, respectfully, I vote.
Thank you, Assembly Member. The bill has been moved by Senator Glazer. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 4, AB 1001. The motion is due pass as amended to Human Services. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, I. Wilk. Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, I. Glazer? Glazer, I. McGuire. Pan?
Leave that bill on call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to file item 5. Assembly Member Smith, come on down. You actually have 2 bills to present. Would you like to start with AB 1051? All right, very good. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members.
AB 1051, sponsored by the California Community College Chancellor's Office, would reestablish an exemption initially put into statute in 2006 for community college nursing faculty to exceed the part-time faculty course load cap, allowing for more continuity in clinical nursing education. Unlike other programs, nursing requires extensive clinical components on top of time in the classroom, requiring clinical rotations extending 6 to 18 weeks in 12-hour shifts, 1 to 2 days a week. Many clinical nursing instructors continue to serve as practicing licensed nurses while teaching, leading to a larger number of part-time nursing faculty. Under existing law, course loads for part-time community college and adult education faculty are capped at 67% of the hours per week of a full-time course load, which is approximately 2 courses. This cap results in instructor changes in the middle of rotation, interrupting students' learning process and interrupting the care at the clinical sites. AB 1051 would permit part-time clinical nursing faculty to be employed by any one community college district for up to 4 semesters or 6 quarters, allowing community colleges across the state to serve at least 351 additional students per year in nursing programs, and encouraging the hiring of practicing licensed nurses who will bring valuable and relevant real-world experience to the educational environment. With me today is 2 witnesses in support: Justin Salonik, legislative analyst for the California Community Chancellor's Office, and Austin Webster, representing several community colleges.
Welcome. You each have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair and members. Justin Salonik on behalf of the California Community College Board of Governors, the sponsor of AB 1051. By removing the 67% load cap on part-time nursing faculty, the scenario that was described by the Assembly member where an instructor must be replaced in the middle of a term would be avoided. As you can imagine, it is difficult for an instructor to properly evaluate a student that they have not been with since the beginning of the semester. This midterm onboarding is disruptive to the instructors, the students, and the clinical facility that is hosting the program. And AB 1051 is also needed because of the difficulty community college nursing programs have in finding full-time faculty. For example, over the last 10 years, Ventura College has had 3 to 5 unfilled openings for full-time nursing faculty. Recently, they were forced to reduce admissions by 20% in their associate degree of nursing programs. And the exemption in AB 1051 would have allowed the college to accept their normal admission numbers. Community college nursing programs are a high-quality and affordable option that provides social mobility to students from diverse backgrounds from all over California. And AB 1051 is a valuable tool that districts can utilize to maximize the number of students they enroll. Thank you.
Thank you. Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Senators Austin Webster on behalf of the Coast Community College District, Rancho Santiago Community College District, and the Orange County Community College Legislative Task Force. We just want to briefly align our comments with the Chancellor's Office. This is a very important tool for our programs. It's especially important that we have these ability to bring in these nurse practitioners that are coming in and actually having the hands-on experience, and then preventing these disruptions, as mentioned by Assemblymember Smith. Improve student outcomes and just generally is a best practice that we want to have available for our colleges. So we urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Others in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Any questions, comments, concerns? Do we have a motion? Thank you, Senator. Assemblywoman, you may close.
Thank you for your time and consideration. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. The bill has been moved by Senator Durazo. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 5, AB 1051, the motion is due pass to appropriations. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer? Aye. Glazer, aye. McGuire? Pan?
That bill on call, and now I think you have AB 1729.
I do.
Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, and hello, members. Dual enrollment programs, particularly those which take place on higher education institution campuses, have shown to be excellent tools for encouraging college readiness. Participating students are more likely to complete college than their non-participating peers, and concurrent enrollment has proven particularly effective for young men of color, low-income students, and first-generation students. Students not only gain valuable career skills or earn general education units that can transfer to a four-year university, but they also learn they can be successful in college. This gives them the confidence to continue with college after high school and puts them on a path toward achieving their academic goals. Summer is the ideal time for students to participate in dual enrollment programs, as students are free of the responsibilities and workload that come with the regular academic year. However, current law limits the number of high school students who can enroll in summer courses at our community colleges. Only 5% of students per grade level, per school, are permitted to enroll in these programs. AB 1729 expands college access for high school students during the summer by removing that 5% cap for students who enroll in general education courses that transfer to a four-year university or a career pathway. This bill leaves in place restrictions on physical education courses and courses during the regular academic year. And with me today as a witness in support is Eric Harnish from the California Community College District, College of the Canyons in Santa Clarita.
Thank you. Welcome.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak today in support of AB 1729, which promises to help more high school students find that they have a place in college. At our college, more than 1,000 high school students get a jump start on college each year by taking classes at College of the Canyons. They not only gain valuable career skills or earn general education units that can transfer to a four-year university, but they also learn they can be successful in college. This gives them the confidence to continue with college after high school and puts them on a path toward achieving their academic goals. And they succeed academically. High school students regularly outperform the college-age students they are sitting next to in their classes. As our community college system continues its efforts to meet the ambitious Vision for Success goals of increasing degrees and certificates, transferring more students to four-year universities, and helping more students successfully move from classrooms to careers, these are the kinds of opportunities that we need to create. AB 1729 offers more flexibility for students, giving them the opportunity to enroll in almost any course a community college offers during the summer. As the Assemblywoman said, summer is the ideal time for high school students to enroll, and as they are free of the responsibilities and workload that come with their regular academic year. Moreover, they take the classes at the college campus, giving them a chance to experience campus life, make use of available support resources like free tutoring, and learn they can indeed be successful in college. This is what parents tell us that they want for their students. When we surveyed parents of 11th and 12th graders recently, 88% of them expressed interest in their students taking classes at College of the Canyons. AB 1729 would allow more of them to do just that, so I respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Nick Romley on behalf of the wonderful company in support.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments? Senator Glazer?
Yes, Assemblywoman, I want to commend you on this bill. I think it's a fantastic bill. I think we create all these bureaucracies that prevent our educational system from treating kids as they are able to and to match their capacity. And there's so many things about this bill and the opportunity that it may provide to students that's just absolutely wonderful. I know you had the wonderful company speak up a moment ago. They inspired my wonderfulness. If there's an opportunity down the road, if you ever amend the bill, I'd love to be a co-author. And thank you, and happy to move it at the chair's request.
Thank you, Senator Glazer. Any other questions or comments? Would you like to close?
Certainly. Thank you, Senators, for your time. You know, I have the privilege of representing College of the Canyons along with Senator Wilk, and we've seen in our own communities how often students of every type and at every grade level take advantage of this during high school when they can. It presents a tremendous opportunity for them to kind of dip their feet in the college experience, to test out their level of interest in different coursework, and it's a tremendous savings to the students and their families when they're able to do this, and a wonderful opportunity. So I'd appreciate your aye vote.
Thank you very much. The bill has been moved by Senator Glazer. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 18, AB 1729. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer? Aye. Glazer, aye. McGuire? Pan?
We'll leave that bill on call. Thank you very much. All right, we are going in file item order. Dr. Weber, she has file item 12, AB 1460. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, and to Madam Chair and members. I'm here today to present to you AB 1460. The CSU educates the most ethnically diverse student body in the nation. And that diversity should be celebrated by institutionalizing a curriculum that is relevant, inclusive, and reflective of the student cultures and backgrounds they serve. 50 years ago, the CSU became the birthplace of modern ethnic studies, and almost all of its campuses already maintain some level of ethnic studies on them. Ethnic studies scholarship focuses on the central role that race and ethnicity play in the construction of American history, culture, and society. Ethnic studies fills in the knowledge gap and correct intentional misrepresentations of people of color and their histories, contributions, and experiences. Studies have found that both students of color and white students benefit academically and socially from taking ethnic studies courses. Ethnic studies courses contribute to improved graduation rates, positive campus climate outcomes, and are vital to a student's success beyond college in an increasingly diverse workforce and society. In 2014, the California State University Chancellor's Office launched a task force on the advancement of ethnic studies, comprised of faculty, department chairs, program directors, coordinators, deans, academic senate chairs, and presidents throughout the CSU system. In 2016, the #1 recommendation of that task force, that final report, was to make ethnic studies a general education requirement throughout the CSU system. AB 1460 codifies the #1 recommendation of the CSU task force report. AB 1460 would have the CSU take up the torch to systematically live up to its mission, which is to prepare students for an international multicultural society, by including the completion of an ethnic studies course as a graduation requirement. AB 1460 in Section 2C and D directs the Academic Senate to work with the CSU Council on Ethnic Studies to develop and approve core competencies to be achieved by students taking an ethnic studies course. This means faculty would be in charge of and would determine what courses count toward this requirement and not the legislature. This bill is structured in a way that the ethnic studies requirement must be implemented within the existing number of units required to graduate from the university. Therefore, time to degree is not impeded on it either. In addition, an ethnic studies course could easily double count for multiple requirements, and if a student took an ethnic studies course at a community college, the requirement would be fulfilled. This bill does not prescribe curriculum, course content, or student learning outcomes, nor does this bill limit faculty members or students' ability to engage in intellectual debate at all, and therefore does not infringe on academic freedom. It should also be noted that the CSU already has course requirements such as the American Institution requirement. The flexibility given in this bill allows for easy implementation for each individual campus. Different campuses have different ways of crediting cross-listed courses. As long as the course has the core competencies determined by faculty, then the requirement would be fulfilled. Lastly, AB 1460 builds on the introductory knowledge students will receive at the secondary college level, and it will most likely be CSU graduates teaching ethnic studies courses in the K through 12 level. I want to emphasize the fact that this bill is supported by the California Faculty Association and supported by a multitude of campus departments, student organizations, civil rights organizations, and labor groups throughout the state of California. I want to also emphasize the fact that for 40 years, I founded and chaired and administered the Ethnic Studies Department, the Africana Studies Department at San Diego State University. Additionally, for 6 years, I was president of the National Council for Black Studies, the national organization of ethnic studies. And so I bring to you a wealth of experience and an understanding of how the university works and how it doesn't work, and the things that have to happen in order to move forward. With me today to speak on behalf of 1460 is Rocio Rivera Murillo, who's a recent CSU Northridge Chicano Studies graduate, and Kenneth Montero, the former dean of the college of the only college that we have of ethnic studies in the nation, but he is the former dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State University. I welcome him here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Weber. Welcome. You each have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Leyva and Education Committee. My name is Rocio Rivera Murillo, and I graduated a couple weeks ago from California State University Northridge with a double major in sociology and Chicano Studies. 5 years ago, I was a high school student organizing to make ethnic studies an A through G requirement in LAUSD. 5 years later, students are fighting the same battle to pass AB 1460 and make ethnic studies a requirement across the 23 CSU campuses. Without ethnic studies, I would have not graduated with a research assistantship, provided the opportunity to publish in a peer-reviewed journal, presented at 5 national conferences, and organized alongside my community. I am one among thousands of students to testify about the ways that ethnic studies changed my life in positive ways that I never anticipated. In fall 2017 and fall 2018, for example, thousands of students mobilized, walked out, and boycotted against the implementation of Executive Orders 1100 and 1100R, mandated by CSU Chancellor Timothy White, Timiteo Blanco. In the wake of the 50th year anniversary of ethnic studies, students in the CSU find it even more compelling to make ethnic studies a requirement. Ethnic studies is a powerful and innovative interdisciplinary field that tackles issues ranging from immigration, environmental justice, incarceration, labor, gender rights, and sexuality in ways that traditional disciplines simply cannot. Under Title V mandate, the CSU is already legally mandated to teach American institutions, for example, constitutional issues. Title V does not meet the needs of students who come from historically disenfranchised backgrounds, low-income communities, and first generation. An ethnic studies requirement in the CSU will broaden the curriculum to empower faculty and students to make curriculum decisions that are innovative, groundbreaking, and transformative so that students can succeed in the CSU system. AB 1460 is needed to protect the right for ethnic studies to exist. In fall 2017, CSU President Diane Harrison promised to make ethnic studies a requirement across the CSU. Behind closed doors, administrators lie about their support for ethnic studies. However, administrators rarely take the risk of upholding the integrity that ethnic studies deserves. This is the only field of knowledge that was created by community members and activists. I respectfully ask all of you to please vote in favor of AB 1460 in the interest of educational equity, diversity, and California's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Chaleva and committee members. I'm Professor Kenneth Montero, lead officer for over 200 members of the California State University Ethnic Studies Council, and chosen by the California Faculty Association to speak on their behalf as well. So I thank you for your time, hard work, and encourage your support for this potentially historic legislation. For brevity, I will highlight 2 themes. First, only a couple of select examples for, and second, select a couple of myths in opposition. Argument first, it is unthinkable that an educated person in the multi-ethnic, multicultural, globally connected 21st century only studies one intellectual and cultural tradition in a university. Ethnic studies provides that added value. 2, as mentioned earlier, so I'll go quickly on it, research demonstrates numerous additional values for ethnic studies, including an up to 20% increase in graduation rates for college students who succeed in at least one course, no matter their major. Yes, I said 20% increase, and any major, science, business. Myth 1. AB 1460 is described as unprecedented and violates principles of shared governance and academic freedom. Shared governance is bestowed by this august body, and the legislature judiciously already regulates general education and other graduation requirements as appropriate and necessary. Professors know academic freedom is not academic license. We are free to express how we teach within established professional parameters set by legislature. This bill simply requires that we offer this faculty-created curriculum with proven academic benefit to all, as recommended in the CSU Chancellor's Blue Ribbon Task Force several years ago. Myth 2, though customarily they would, administrative leadership did not consult the ethnic studies faculty before speaking on our behalf regarding academic freedom or shared governance, or on their recent curricular executive orders. And myth 3, as indicated by a joint letter submitted by Ethnic Studies and Women's Studies Department chairs jointly, refutes the claim that this bill would pit ethnic studies against our colleagues. To the contrary, they support it. So I encourage you to correct the decision 50 years ago when the governor, legislator, and CSU leadership secured their permanent place on the wrong side of history, and to take an important step towards inviting all parties to the correct side of history, shaping a better future for all. We appreciate your time on this.
Thank you very much. Witnesses in support.
Ashley Walker with Nossaman on behalf of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors in support.
Martha Zaragoza Diaz for the California Association for Bilingual Education, and we are in support.
Marta Escobar, Associate Professor in Chicano Studies at Cal State Northridge, first-generation student who graduated from college and went on to get a PhD because of ethnic studies, and strong support.
Mario Guerrero on behalf of the California Faculty Association and adjunct faculty at Sacramento State and the Political Science Department in support.
Kimberly Rosenberger with Service Employees International Union, California, in strong support.
Luisa Menchaca on behalf of the California League of United Latin American Citizens, a civil rights organization, in strong support.
Stephen Felling, faculty member, CSU Stanislaus, and advocate for academic freedom, in strong support.
Alejandro Contreras, social worker, Sac State alumni, in strong support.
Melissa Moreno, former CSU faculty and current chair of Community College Ethnic Studies program, and I strongly ask you to support this bill.
Mary Rove, professor of ethnic studies, CSU Stan State, in strong support on behalf of the entire ethnic studies department at CSU Stan State. And not only do I believe that this bill will not infringe upon academic freedom, but it will actually open up cross-departmental
Name and support only, please.
Collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. If other witnesses in support, just your name and support of the bill, please.
All right, Lily Solorio, student at Sacramento City College and also organizer with the Still Here Collective, a transgender organizing collective. And I just want to say that I support ethnic studies to be passed because I want education from my perspective. From
Name and organization, and if you support the bill, please.
I support the bill.
Thank you. Next witness.
Dominique Williams, Sacramento City Unified School District. I graduated from the CSU and now teach ethnic studies, and I support this bill.
Jorge Pacheco Jr., trustee for the Oak Grove School District School Board, ethnic studies teacher as well. And on behalf of the Ethnic Studies Now Coalition, we strongly support this bill.
Christopher Sanchez, the chair of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, and also as a student of ethnic studies at CSU Sac State, in strong support.
Richard Torres with California Dream Network, in support.
Manuel Barajas, profesor de Sociología at Sac State, chair for the Center on Race, Immigration, and Social Justice, in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Kim Jerome, professor of political science at Cal State East Bay. On behalf of many of my colleagues, we strongly support this bill.
Dale Allender, College of Education, Sacramento State University, strong support.
Diana de Rueda, aspiring professor in ethnic studies, and strong support. Please make my future happen.
Tiffany Tran on behalf of Southeast Asia Resource Action Center, in strong support. Julissa Ruiz Ramirez, student at CSU Stanislaus, double majoring in ethnic studies and political science, co-chair of MECHA, and of our chapter and of our regional committee, in strong support.
Hi, I'm Dave Kolnick. I'm chair and a professor in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration at Cal State Stanislaus. I am also the chapter president of the California Faculty Association Faculty Rights Advocate, in strong support.
Hi, my name is Ann Strom. I'm the chair of the Department of Sociology, Gender Studies, and Gerontology, and I am representing an amazing group of human beings, and in support of my colleagues and my students, I stand here before you to support this bill. Thank you.
Good morning. Preston Rudy, sociology professor at San Jose State, graduate of UC Davis. Thank you.
Good morning, Jenith Rodriguez, Sac State alum, in strong support.
Ilse Mimas, political science student at Sacramento State, in strong support.
Margot Ronaldo, a political science student at Sacramento State, in strong support.
Dr. Reverend Joel Camacho, I'm here for the support. Bye.
Jessica Lawless, former community college gender studies professor whose courses were cross-listed with ethnic studies, and now with California Faculty Association, in strong support.
Jessica Wilson, Sacramento State graduate, in strong support.
Davika Best, Modesto Junior College, woman of color who wants to see herself reflected in her studies, and strong support.
Dimson McFadden from Stanislaus State, double major in ethnic studies and business, and I'm in strong support.
David Selby, Department of Political Science, CSU Sacramento. I'm in strong support.
Marlon Jones, Professor, Cal State Sacramento, strong support.
Rhonda Rios-Kravitz, Dean Emerita from Sac City College, also alumna of CSUS and former faculty member of CSUS, and CEO of Alianza and Immigrant Rights Groups, and we are in strong support.
Elvia Olea, student at California State University Stanislaus, ethnic studies major, president of VISA Indigenous Students in Activism, and strong support. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Reverend Minister of Civil Rights and Human Rights. Strong support for this bill. Thank you.
Kim McGill from the Youth Justice Coalition. We also have a high school, Free LA High School, and strong support. It's one of the only reasons our students come to school.
Zaria Thomas with the Youth Justice Coalition and strong support.
Irving Alvarez, Youth Justice Coalition, Brothers, Sons, and Selves Coalition, and strong support.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support? Seeing none, is there any opposition to the bill? Come on up. There's seats at the table. Two witnesses, 2 minutes each. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Catherine Nelson. I'm chair of the Academic Senate of the California State University. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. We respectfully oppose AB 1460. The Academic Senate CSU is the institutionally and legally recognized voice of the CSU faculty in matters of system-wide academic concern, including curriculum and graduation requirements. You've heard a very powerful case for the impact of ethnic studies on our students, a case with which we agree. However, we do not believe that a legislatively mandated graduation requirement is an appropriate means of accomplishing the ends embodied in the legislation. Faculty have the expertise and experience to judge the appropriate requirements for a university degree. Legislative involvement substitutes the government's agenda for that expertise as the basis for curricular decisions. The potential ripple effects of the bill deserve consideration as well. Given the CSU's 120-unit limit on undergraduate degrees, the additional 3-unit graduation requirement has the potential to alter major requirements, especially in high-unit majors, already pressed to meet accreditation and general education requirements simultaneously. In addition, the way the requirement is constructed poses potential challenges for the number of options students have for satisfying general education and cultural studies requirements and for double counting in majors and minors that involve courses from multiple ethnic studies departments. The start date of fall 2020 is also insufficient time to prepare for implementation. CSU Community College articulation agreements, learning outcomes, course certification, and changes in academic programs all need to be thoroughly vetted through appropriate curricular review processes. And because the bill creates an unfunded mandate, reductions in other programs may be necessary to absorb the cost of implementation. This committee has a policy regarding bills relating to curriculum frameworks and model curricula that states that such measures should be introduced only after a member has tried unsuccessfully to use administrative routes to address the issue. A parallel exists in this case as well. Any proposal for system-wide graduation requirements should be vetted through established CSU shared governance processes. Our resolution, AS 3380, creates that alternative by providing just such a shared governance mechanism to recommend CSU ethnic studies curricula based on the Ethnic Studies Task Force report. We appreciate the increased flexibility in the bill resulting from clarification from Member Weber's office about which courses satisfy the requirement and the amendment that establishes a minimum 3-unit requirement. We also are very much aware of the history of racialization of the principles of academic freedom and faculty control of the curriculum. As much as we appreciate these developments, we remain opposed to the bill. The use of government power to mandate curriculum is quite frankly chilling, no matter how worthy the goal. If AB 1460 becomes law, it would set a precedent for future curricular mandates to be imposed by the legislature. So we urge you to seriously consider the long-term implications of the vote you are about to take. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next witness.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Blanchard. I serve as Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs for the California State University Chancellor's Office. Today, I join my colleague, Catherine Nelson, in opposing Assembly Bill 1460, which would impose the completion of a 3-unit ethnic studies course as a graduation requirement for all students. Let me be clear that our concerns rest not with the value derived in bringing greater awareness and understanding of the historical and contemporary experiences of ethnic groups in our country. We fully understand the ethnic and racial tensions and intolerance that have been and even today are still too pervasive in American societies. We also understand that the California State University is the birthplace of ethnic studies, first established at San Francisco State University in 1969. And as a result of the Ethnic Studies Task Force recommendation, a task force that was commissioned by Chancellor White 4 years ago, we have now seen first a 9% increase in enrollment in ethnic studies courses. The CSU has hired over 72 faculty members, tenure track in ethnic studies, and we now have 47% of our CSU graduates completing an ethnic studies course in one of the 4 course areas prescribed in the bill. Lastly, the CSU Chancellor White has made progress in making sure that the Ethnic Studies Task Force recommendations are being fulfilled and has made it a part of his annual evaluation process with the presidents. The CSU is the most ethnically, economically, and academically diverse student body in the United States. Part of the CSU's mission is to prepare students to live and to work in a culturally diverse society. And this mission is taken very seriously by the CSU. We strongly support ethnic studies courses and programs in the CSU. However, as was just mentioned by Dr. Nelson, this bill would represent an unprecedented, legislatively dictated curricular requirement. The California legislature has never imposed course requirements for California State University students before. The bill undermines the process of shared governance and academic freedom. Such a mandate will set the dangerous precedent of allowing government to determine curricular and threatens the academic freedom inherent in collegiate education. CSU faculty are hired for their disciplinary expertise. They should be relied on to develop curricula that are responsive to local communities.
You're out of time, so if you can wrap it up, please.
Secondly, this bill runs contrary to the work of the CSU, that's my last point, largely driven by the faculty to focus more on inclusive excellence and implement strategies there within to address equity and opportunity gaps of all underrepresented students, our disenfranchised students that we serve. So unlike the restrictive language of language in AB 1460, which limits us to 4 disciplines, our campuses really have included a more inclusive range of perspectives, including women's studies, gender studies, religious studies, LGBTQ studies, which this bill would then isolate those particular courses.
Thank you. Any other opposition to the bill? Sir?
Hi, Dave speaking. I'm still the proud parent of 3 women of color, beautiful women of color. I'm also 4 times the chair of the Academic Senate at Cal Poly Pomona, and I am currently chair of the Fiscal and Governmental Affairs Committee of the System-Wide Senate, the ASCSU, and I strongly oppose the bill.
Thank you, sir. Any other opposition? Seeing and hearing none, we'll come back to the committee. Senator DeRazzo.
Yes, thank you very much to the author. I am very proud of you, very proud as a woman of color that you are moving this forward and that you won't give up on it. I am very embarrassed that 45 years ago when I was in college, that I'm hearing similar explanations, similar excuses for not doing what the educational system of this state and this nation should have done. Words like however, not now, never before, threatens academic freedom, should do this, should do that. 45 years after I was in college. What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment. I expect a whole lot more from our educational system in this state. And to think that we are still, at our age, still fighting for the recognition of studies that shouldn't be seen as something that's segregated away from the rest of our education, but should be seen as something so integral, so healthy for everybody. I'm just so shocked. I never thought that at this point in my life that this would even be a conversation or a debate. And there are lots of excuses that are drummed up to keep out our part of history, our part of what all people do. I just, it's quite a surprise to me. So I am a strong supporter, and I greatly appreciate your continued leadership, and I would expect nothing less than this for all the youth, all the students who attend our higher education institutions. Thank you. And I will be proud to move the bill.
Thank you, Senator Durazo. Senator Glazer.
Thank you. Dr. Weber, you are truly a trailblazer in this area. Your leadership, and I'm sure it began at the beginning of your professional life, because you haven't really deviated from that and all the things that you have done and led on and taught. And of course, we share some history together. I went to San Diego State, and it wasn't a requirement then, but I took an ethnic studies course in Mexican American studies. I briefly enrolled in Dr. Karenga's course until my workload got so great that I couldn't continue. And I took women's studies, and these were all choices that I got to make, and I was very much enriched by it, no doubt about it. I don't know if you were here during the earlier conversation on Assemblymember Medina's bill.
I heard it on television.
Very good. But then you know my sentiments about how important it is that we teach all of our citizens about each other and our backgrounds and our culture. That really is so important to our cohesion as a world, and there's just no doubt about that. The issue I have with your bill, as I had with his, is this issue of a mandate, and the requirement that we should get in the way of, in the case of the Medina bill, the Board of Education and the school boards. In the case of your bill, the academic senates on the campuses, and in mandating a specific activity, even if it's one I think is very worthy of study and engagement. Now, according to the analysis, the chancellor issued an executive order in 2017 that didn't mandate the course requirement, but it suggested it. And so I guess I'm interested in hearing where is it that, because I'm trying to establish this high bar that we need to step in. Can you speak to the work that the academic senates have done? Have they not even considered this issue? Have they turned it down? Have there not been campuses that have adopted this as a part of their campus choice? Could you speak to that issue?
Well, I think, if you look at it in terms of that recommendation, and that's not the first time it's ever been recommended. It's been recommended before from various other areas in terms of persons concerned and leadership areas. It has not been taken up as a statewide initiative. The recommendation has been there, but there is no plan in place that I know of where they have systematically decided how they would roll this out over a number of years. So the recommendation is there, but it has not been taken up to basically be implemented. Those departments who have, several departments have contacted us who have taken that initiative and have tried to push it a little bit more on their campuses, have met resistance, of course. A few have been able to who already have in place a structure that allows that to happen, have been able to do something with it. But it has not become a major issue statewide that we can embrace and say, okay, they've taken the recommendation and they're moving forward with it. It's not there. And so, so you don't have a plan that's being laid out by the academic senates to implement this particular proposal.
So I know you're speaking about the statewide. I think you're speaking about the statewide academic senate. But I'm really interested in the campus-by-campus choice. So, in other words, I hear that
who've always done that, who've always had ethnic studies, or I should say, a multicultural studies component, which is different than an ethnic studies component. At San Diego State, we had a multicultural requirement that was there, a cross-cultural, whatever it was. And it could be satisfied in a multitude of ways that would never cause them to ever address the issues of people of color in California. You could take it by studying Southern Europeans or whatever you wanted, but that had some diversity component. But the ability to actually deal with the issues of race and ethnicity in California, in the United States, and the issue that it impacts their lives daily, that was not, you could get away, you could get out of the university without ever taking that subject matter. And that is one of the concerns, that if we're going to really address the issues that we face every day, that we see every day in our classrooms, in the places where we live, you have to begin to basically crack open that egg and begin to engage in that conversation, and not divert your interest in other areas and say, oh, we've satisfied it because we took a course in some other country somewhere else without actually touching the California or the United States issues.
right, but my question really is trying to address the compelling need for us to act as a legislature, because, wait, just let me just finish.
Sure.
Because of an absence of actions on the campuses to show that sensitivity, and in some cases to adopt that as a requirement in general education, and that for me at least, it's like we have 23 campuses, we have shared governance on each, we have academic senates on each, and so for me to try to get to this higher bar and a precedent-setting bar, I'm trying to understand whether, since the 2017 executive order by the chancellor, have we had campuses that have done nothing and have actually refused to act and said that it's on the record, they had a deliberative process, they said no? Have we had campuses that have said yes? And what are everybody in between? In other words, I'm looking for some factual basis to understand the need to act today.
The fact that you have 50 years of ethnic studies, and that 50 years is not 50 years of idle activity. You know, having been a chair of ethnic studies for almost 40 years, 30 of the 40 years I was there, there is persistent and consistent discussions of ethnic studies on those campuses, and inclusion of those courses in the regular, not only just in the regular curriculum, the content, but also the requirements to have students take those classes. That is a constant plea that is there on all the campuses, and it always has been. And after 50 years of that, when I came to the legislature, I authored the first piece of legislation that was a resolution concerning ethnic studies. And out of that resolution, we had a hearing up here. Out of the resolution, the chancellor then, who came in, white came in, and the Black Caucus and some other caucuses met with him and says, this is an issue that we have that needs to be addressed. So out of all of that, then you get this commission that serves for a couple of years, that's presidents and faculty members and you name it, all the collaborations that's there, and it comes out with a recommendation that says, one of the #1 recommendations that there needs to be a 3-unit requirement of ethnic studies throughout the system. Now this is, as a result, this is my 7th year here. So this is a result of 7 years of discussion and ongoing, and we still don't have that. We have continuing conversation about what some departments have done, how they've taken, some have done that, but they had been doing that all along. So you don't have the introduction of this new statewide movement. So the issue is, yes, the urgency is there to the extent that how long, and hopefully as King says, not long, how long do you have to wait for this to happen? Is 50 years enough? Okay. You know, do we know enough information about ethnic studies to make a difference? You know, are we the people in this generation determined to make this happen? Is this legislature diverse enough to begin to see the necessity of it? And I say this because this is my battle for 50 years. I came to the university in 1972 to develop ethnic studies at San Diego State. So I've been in this a long time, and I've heard all of these conversations. I have been a part of the Academic Senate for 6 years. I served as Academic Senate. I served as chair of the campus curriculum committee for the Senate for a number of years. I know the difficulty and the resistance that's there. I've been in the ivory tower and tried to paint it multiple colors, and it has not worked. So all I'm saying is that, what else do you need to know?
Well,
Standing in a situation where you are the birthplace of ethnic studies for 50 years, I mean, what else do we need to know? Tell me, and tell me how you would do it. And I know I'm not supposed to be questioning you, but that's okay, I'm sorry. But
Before you respond, Senator Glazer, if I can just ask the audience, when you like something, we go like this. If you don't like something, we just stay silent.
So
I love your passion, and I love your history, and certainly there's few that can speak to that understanding and history as someone like you, with all that you have done. The systems have come in. The system has come in and said that since the 2017 executive order that there's been a 9% increase in the number of students taking ethnic studies, and they profess to say, and I don't know if you have information to the contrary, that they've hired 72 ethnic studies tenure track faculty, which is a significant number of faculty.
So they're ready now to implement the statewide initiative.
Yeah. So and I think that if you, I don't know if you can speak to the evidence that the course catalog has been shrunk in terms of ethnic studies, the majors have been eliminated, the departments have been eliminated. Anyway, I'm still trying to get to this issue of the compelling need, and I don't, and it isn't out of great appreciation for the goals that you have established, okay? And here's the last thing, and that if you want to address, you can, but look, there is an ebb and flow to our political system that is sometimes comfortable to observe because we obviously would like it to be where it is today, right? And in previous legislatures, there have been people in charge that haven't been like you or like me, and you don't have to go too far back. And so, there is a potential in the future, even though we wouldn't expect it or hope for it, that the folks that are up here at the dais are going to be folks with a different philosophical view about our campuses and academic freedom and the choices that maybe they want to make about mandates that they want to require. We have never provided this type of a mandate before. It is, in my worry, a slippery slope in terms of what would come next. Not because of a lack of merit, but because we have a process in place. We have a board of trustees, which is a very diverse board of trustees. We have campus leadership with great diversity now, unprecedented. More than half of our university presidents are women today at the CSU. We have a lot more work to do on diversity within our faculty, and I know that's an ongoing challenge. It was heartening to hear earlier in testimony that as a part of the presidential review, that this issue is a part of those standards. And I know I sat as a trustee during those reviews, and those things are taken very seriously in terms of the leadership of the campus in these types of areas. And so I just want to share that observation that as much as these are things we would like to have, I certainly would like to see it too, that there is a very slippery slope we get on with these types of mandates. And again, that's not out of any limit of the enormous respect I have for you and your leadership, and I thank you for indulging me.
You know, one of the, well, I don't know if you want me to respond to that or not.
We've got other questions, if you don't mind, Assembly Member. Thank you, Senator Glazer. Senator Pan.
Thank you so very much. And Senator, first of all, thank you for, we've had a chance to talk and appreciate your, thank you for the time and your leadership. I do agree with my good friend, Senator Raza, that this should be something, ideally, I mean, we know that we are nowhere near the ideal, it's integrated together. The fact that it's not means that's why we need to have ethnic studies. So I guess the question I have, and I want to first pose it to CSU, and then I also want the sponsors to perhaps also respond. So what I see is that, we have a task force in 2014. I understand it's not the only task force. It comes out with a recommendation, and that was 3 years ago. And one of the recommendations is that we should do what this bill calls for, right? And I have to admit that I have the tremendous reluctance as someone who is a professor at the other institution, UC, to have curricula dictated by the legislature or outside bodies. I mean, faculty have to do a lot of work trying to figure out how do we educate. But so I guess the question I have for CSU, first of all, is that, so the report did recommend this. So it's been 3 years. So what has the Academic Senate done? Has it, and what I mean, what has the Academic Senate done is that in the past 3 years, you should have put it up for a discussion and a vote, and either you're telling me, yes, we agree, or no, we don't agree, not whether about, so we're arguing about the bill because, again, and you make the point, and I actually do share your concerns that we, as the legislature, should not, that we should let the faculty take the lead. But now the question I have is that, so have the faculty taken the lead? Like, it's been 3 years, what have you done? Have you actually debated this issue? Can you tell me that you voted it down? That's why it's not happened? Have you taken a vote on this? What has resulted? Why are you putting us in this position of having to debate this? So it's been 3 years since this report and the recommendation came out. So I want to know from the Faculty Senate, and I also want to know from the Chancellor, what has the Chancellor done to enact this particular, recognizing its shared governance? So that's why I'm asking both of you to answer the question.
Thank you for the question, and I appreciate the motivation behind it, believe me. At the time the report came out, one of the things that part of the dynamic of the statewide academic senate is a deference to campus autonomy when it comes to curricular decisions.
So I guess
so the answer is no, we did not take up the requirement. And I think that
so have you called on each of the campuses, since you said you deferred to the campuses, that each campus should have already had a vote on it in the past 3 years?
We have called on campuses to seriously consider the recommendations of the ethnic studies.
No. Has it been
if you let me finish,
right.
But we have not specifically said take up this requirement.
Okay, so has it been agendized in every campus faculty senate to have a discussion about this report and the recommendations, including this recommendation?
That I do not have an answer to.
Okay, when can you get me the answer to that?
I can try to get it as soon as possible.
Okay, so
it's the summer, so I can't guarantee.
Okay, no, okay. So let me ask another question, and then I want to hear from the Chancellor's office. If it hasn't, is there a commitment on part of the Faculty Senate to take it up before the end of the year? That every campus should have at least had a discussion and made a public decision on what to do with this recommendation?
That is pretty much the embodiment of the resolution we passed in May, setting up a shared governance mechanism.
Is the answer yes?
Yes.
Okay, so before the end of this year, every campus faculty senate will have considered and taken a position on the recommendations of the report, including specifically the recommendation for requiring ethnic studies for graduation in their campus.
2 questions. One, are we talking about the 2019-2020 school year? Academic year?
I am talking about before the end of this calendar year.
This calendar year?
Okay, I know there's this academic year, but the Academic Senate can make decisions without waiting for an end of a school year. They can do it, we have 6 months.
I cannot.
So it's not July. It's not even July 1st yet.
I can give you a commitment that the statewide academic senate will take this issue up. I cannot give you a commitment that every individual campus senate will take this up and will have taken a position on it, because I don't have the authority to do that, and the statewide senate does not have the authority to do that.
Okay, and is that something so what has the Chancellor done, and is that something the Chancellor will call for?
So we do have information that lays out exactly how each campus has been and has not been responsive to each.
No. The question I asked is that taking up this very issue of the recommendations of the report and having the Senate, because I'd like to defer to the Senate, but if the Senate's not actually going to act on it and even debate it, then that's concerning to me. And it's been 3 years since the report came out.
The basis of my statement is saying that we already have some information that we can share with you relative to those campuses that have taken it up. And so what we will need to do is to make sure that we have a comprehensive base of information that says which campuses have and which have not taken up this particular item. And that if you're asking that we can provide information there on which have and which have not, we can certainly have that by the end of the calendar year.
Right, and information is great, but what I want to hear about leadership. So will the Chancellor, so I just heard, the statewide Senate will take something up, but says she doesn't have the authority to, although I hope the statewide Senate would call on each of the campuses to do this. I would also hope the Chancellor would commit to calling on each faculty senate at each campus to discuss and make a decision, whether they support or oppose, let's put them on the record, the recommendations of this report that came out 3 years ago, that was done, I understand, at the chancellor's behest, right? And so that I'd like to hear back from the faculty senate. Do they agree with the idea of what this bill calls for, as well as the rest of the report? Are we going to, recommend ethnic studies as a graduation requirement, as recommended by this task force? So, because right now what happens is that if they don't act, you're putting us in a bad position. Because I agree with you. I don't want to have to tell the faculty senate what to do, but the faculty senate's not even going to act. That puts us in a very awkward position. We've heard a lot of powerful testimony about how important ethnic studies is, how valuable it is, not only from the proponents, but from yourselves. And so I think this would be a matter of top importance, given the impact of ethnic studies, to the faculty senate. And the chancellor, by the way. So where's the chancellor on this?
Well, the chancellor has been very responsive in terms of making sure that the campuses understand their responsibility.
All right. I'd like to see a little more leadership in that regard. What about calling on the faculty senate each of the faculty senates and the presidents of each to be sure that they actually take this up, agendize it, have a discussion, make a decision before the end of the year, so that hopefully the system could move forward? I mean, if the faculty senate comes out and says, well, these are all the reasons we don't think this is a good idea, let's put that on the record and let's have a discussion about that. Maybe there's something we can do to ameliorate those issues. But we certainly heard a lot of powerful testimony, and I heard that you don't disagree with that, about the value of ethnic studies. And so I'd like the faculty to take the lead, right? I'd like the faculty to take the lead instead of us having to do it. I mean, I agree with you. This is probably not a good idea that we're trying, that for the first time we're going to pose. So and I talked to Senator Weber and expressed those concerns as well. But I also have to admit that I hear her frustration. I hear the frustration of many of the people who have testified for the bill, that what's taking so long? And you know what? If there's a reason the faculty senate opposes, let's understand that. What's the reason for the opposition? Is there something we could do to ameliorate so we can solve the problem? Instead of waiting around, they said, well, we heard 50 years. This report came out 3 years ago. Can we have something done? Yeah.
So based on what you're saying, we'll go back to the chancellor and make sure that the chancellor has a conversation with each of the presidents as a part of the evaluation process that I just talked about, determine which ones have already taken this up as an issue and have that, and then ask the presidents to ensure that they're working in collaboration with their senates to get answers from the others as well.
Just answers. I'd like them to actually give us feedback, tell them what their position is on the recommendations and why. Not, I mean, this is not just about information, this is about leadership, right? Let's confront the issue and deal with it, not just say, well, I'm going to collect some data about it. And I appreciate there's many campuses, actually, Sac State, I talked to the president. I understand there, but we have before us a recommendation. We have before us a bill that basically supports a recommendation that came from the CSU system itself, a task force, the CSU system itself, right? So in that sense, what happens is that, yeah, I don't like the idea of us imposing those requirements. At the same time, I have to admit that Assemblymember Weber isn't pulling this out of thin air. It's not just something that she wants to impose on CSU. She's basically saying, let's do what a task force CSU actually recommended. And so, that's not entirely unreasonable. Although, again, I have concerns that you've expressed and I share that we shouldn't be dictating. But at the same time, I need to know that CSU itself, they created a task force, they have a recommendation, is taking that recommendation seriously. And if they don't agree with it, then explain why not. And if they agree with it, do it. And that's what I'm not hearing. I'm hearing, where some people, et cetera, but this was a system-wide recommendation. So I'd like to see a system-wide response and recognize shared governance. Each campus has their own issues they have to deal with too, and their own characteristics. So, okay, fine. Let's have each campus, but if this is a priority, and I guess you're hearing from us, this is a priority for us, but again, we recognize, shared governance, so we hope that you make this a priority, and that's why I'm calling for her and saying, well, can you please make a decision and tell us what you've decided to do, campus by campus, recognizing some of the independence of each campus as well as the system before the end of the year, because guess what? Next year, we have another legislative session, and I hope that you solve the problem for us so we don't have to legislate. What do you think?
So be it.
Okay, all right, and yes, please. Thank you.
Deal.
All right, and any, did you just,
I don't know if there are any other questions. Just let me say that this issue obviously has been circulating around for a number of years, and it should be apparent to this body that that body is not going to act in the way that we think is appropriate. I mean, as I said, I've been at the university for, feel like forever, and I've served on all of the committees that they talk about. And I know that there have often been mandates from outside that have impacted the campus. I remember when ROTC came to San Diego State, the faculty did not want it. The academic senate actually voted against it. But it was administration and the powers above that implemented ROTC at San Diego State. Despite all of the discussions about our right to control curriculum and to decide what we're going to do, there are other things that happen at this institution that, that basically do not follow this really pristine analysis of faculty engagement and so forth and so on. And I guess the problem is I've been behind the curtain, and I know what's behind the curtain. So I'm not impressed when people tell me about the ivory tower, tell me about academic freedom, dialogue, the Senate committees, the da-da-da-da-da. I know that's all a way of saying it's not going to happen. When you look at ethnic studies came into existence not because people thought it was a good academic idea, not because they thought it was time, that it was fair. It was because students were burning buildings in the campus. I came to San Diego State because a bunch of students burned all the trash cans in front of the president's office. And he realized, oh, we got to hire some black people to get up in here to stop this stuff. And that's how I got hired. And that's why most folks got hired. San Francisco State was on protest for well over a year. Okay, every campus that you see, it was not some little orderly process that occurred. Students often were expelled from campuses. I had friends who could not finish their degree at Cal State LA and got it maybe 20 years later because they were expelled from the campus for protesting for ethnic studies. So this is not something that is going to easily walk through the ivory tower halls and be embraced. It is not going to happen. There are a lot of politics that occur when you start talking about requiring a course to be taught. You are then changing the perspective not only of the public, but of the faculty as well, in terms of what they see as important and what they value. That's going to change. It's also going to sometimes change the dynamics of power at an institution, because students now will see faculty, will be required to see people who don't look like them, who can give them information that they don't have. It also changes the dynamics in terms of who's funded and who's not funded. So let's be real about it. This is power discussion. This is about who will have influence, not only at the institution, but who will have influence in California. The ivory tower somehow or another shrouds itself into this impartial perspective, but the reality is it is very partial. It is very concerned about economics. It is very concerned about maintaining the status quo. And we can either participate in that or we can change it. And so I'm not impressed at all with the conversation, because I know what's going to happen next year and the year after and the year after if we continue down this path. At some point, everything we've ever done has violated the rules in order to get it done. Brown versus Board of Education talks about, are we going to intervene in states where they have states' rights to determine what's going to happen in schools? And we finally said, yes, we have to. And when we began to look at all the changes that have occurred in this nation, they have occurred because people decided enough is enough. We have to move forward. This is what we believe in, and we have to change the rules of engagement. And so when I look at the Academic Senate, having spent all of my life at the CSU, all of my academic life there, and working to change what is happening, I understand the language, I understand the buts and the however, because, maybe, so forth and so on, all the restrictions that are often put up to simply say we're not going to do this, because we're not going to empower students to have the information. They need to be the kind of citizens that we want. We complain about all the hatred in California. We complain about the lack of information people have. We complain about students not being challenged to think differently and to form a California that is is very, very different. I see what happens to white students who take ethnic studies. Their lives are changed forever. Their perspectives are changed forever. And so we have to look at this not just as a black-brown thing, but we have to look at this as rescuing California. If we're ever going to talk about ethnic studies in K-12, it is because we have educated the teachers in the CSU to be able to do that, to be able to change that kind of narrative that's there, and to present the information that's so essential. This is critical for California being the diverse state it wants to be, to have the information to make the difference in the lives of our young people, but in the lives of all of us. And it's only for that reason that I respectfully ask for an aye vote, that you to have the courage to join me and not listen to the narrative that I have listened to for 50 years in terms of what the university can and cannot do, because I know they do what they want to do when they want to do it, regardless of who is in charge, who has the role to do it, who has the right to do it, all those kinds of things. I have been a part of that forever. I know the narrative, I know the language, and thank God I'm here to tell you that it's all unfair, unfounded, and if I believed in the Easter Bunny, then I would believe in that. So once again, I ask for you to vote for this bill, for AB 1460, for us to do something different and to challenge the system as it should be.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Okay. So none of us ever want to follow Dr. Weber, but before we vote, I do just want to express my opinion on the bill. And I do have to say to the CSUs, I think you guys could have come a little bit more prepared. It's really clear that this is something that the Academic Senate has recommended, that the task force has recommended, that it hasn't been instituted as we've gone over in 3 years. We've heard people talk about this being a precedent, and it's never happened. And I would just say that never happens until it does happen. And sometimes we have to change the status quo. And as I said with Assemblymember Medina's bill, how do we expect, and as you articulated very well, Dr. Weber, how do we expect people to know about each other if we don't give them the opportunity to learn about each other? How do we expect to break down walls, break down barriers, accept each other, love each other, if we don't teach our young people? So I am very happy to support the bill today. I appreciate you also being an advocate and working so hard and tirelessly on this for all the years that you've been doing it. And I just think that we need to change. And if we don't change things for our young people, then how can we ever expect a better future? So I thank you very much. The more we know about each other, the more we will know that we are more alike than different. And I would say to all of my colleagues, if not us, then who? And if not when? Well, if not now, then when? We have a motion by Senator Durazo. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 12, AB 1460. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk? Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer? McGuire? Pan?
We will leave that bill on call. Thank you very much, Dr. Weber. All right, members, we are moving on to file item 11, Assemblymember Gibson. This is file item, or excuse me, this is AB 1354. Begin when you're ready, but if you want to wait for the room to clear a little bit.
Assemblymember, welcome to the Committee on Education. You're welcome to begin as soon as you're ready and recovered from that wonderful finish by Assemblymember Weber.
Thank you very much, Senator, and to the Senate. It's hard to follow behind Dr. Shirley Weber. I still feel the smoke coming from this podium. But again, thank you very much for allowing me to present Assembly Bill 1354, which will ensure consistent educational opportunities for youth who were formerly incarcerated, formerly in the juvenile juvenile justice system. This bill requires the County Office of Education to collaborate with the probation on an individualized transition plan for youth transitioning out of juvenile court school. Existing law enacted by the signing of AB 2267 Boca Negra in 2014 requires a joint transition plan. Essentially what this bill does is when individuals getting out of the juvenile court school, it will mandate that a plan is put in place. Far too long, individuals who are coming out of juvenile facilities fail and go through a black hole, fall through the cracks in the system, where when they return to a public school, community school, there is no plan for them to succeed. And I'm a firm believer, as my mother said, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And so this mandates all parties involved to collaborate with probations, the Department of Social Services, to making sure that a plan is put in place, to making sure that these young people's transitioning from the juvenile facility has a plan that will transition, that will get them the right courses, the right classes for them to take when going back to their home schools. This have come out of a work group of students who have put this plan together, and a number of testimonies have come forth of the students who have fallen through the cracks. And we want to make sure as we move forward that there's a consistent plan through a mandate that will make it possible for these young people to succeed. With me to provide supporting testimony for 1354 are a representative from the Youth Law Center, as well as a Youth Juvenile Coalition representative who will self-introduce in support of 1354.
Very good. Witnesses in favor. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zaria Thomas. I'm a high school student and a LOBO at the Youth Justice Coalition. LOBO stands for Leading Our Brothers and Sisters Out of the System, and we organize for improvements in the community and changes in state laws to give incarcerated youth more opportunities. I hope you will vote yes on AB 1354. Education is the most important resource we need to get a job that pays enough to live on, get off the streets, and stay out of jail. But 90% of the youth in California's juvenile halls, probation camps, and ranches and DJJ facilities were suspended or expelled before they were locked up. I went to Venice High School in Los Angeles, and I got kicked out for fighting. No one ever asked me what made me so angry or sat me down with the other student to work things out. I wasn't referred to another school, which I found out later is against state law. Instead, I was out of school for months. I would leave every day from home just to make it look like I was in school, but I was really in the streets. I didn't want my mom to know I was kicked out of school. Eventually, I enrolled in another school, but there, when a teacher made a racist comment in class, I lost my temper and I threw a chair. The teacher called the police and I was arrested and taken to juvenile hall. Probation told me this is where I would be for a long time if I didn't straighten up. I was told I wouldn't be home for Christmas. I guess they were trying to scare me. It was a very humiliating experience. At juvenile hall, I was never tested or assessed on my educational needs. I was never enrolled in school, even though I was there for weeks. When I was released, I got no referral to another school, no transcripts, I had no ID. All of these things are essential to get into school. Instead, probation basically kicked me out to the streets. I was put on probation for 3 years. During the entire time I was on probation, I never had support enrolling in school. I was told to do anger management classes for high-risk, high-needs youth, but my mother couldn't afford the fees, so basically all I got during those 3 years was drug tested. I am enrolled now at the Youth Justice Coalition's high school, and I know I will graduate, but it is hard. All that time out of school broke my confidence and my love for learning, and I have to get used to having a set schedule for school every day. The streets and trouble pulls hard on the youth. It's no mystery why we are all in the streets. We need to eat. And when you fall behind in school, you start to believe that you won't make it with education. There are thousands of youth that have my same story, but current law doesn't require any oversight of services and supports, like help with school records and credits, transfers, all the things that I needed. AB 1354 will require that the County Office of Education and Probation to develop a personal plan with the student and their family in order to meet the academic, social, emotional, and career needs of each student who is locked up for more than 20 consecutive school days. I hope it will encourage them to eventually guarantee that all youth who are arrested get these services. In our schools, in our juvenile halls, in all youth facilities, we need college and job preparation, but we are getting prison preparation. That's the reason why so many youth graduate not by walking the stage, but by walking the prison yard. And the reason why 85% of the people who enter prison across the country have no high school diploma. Thank you for listening to me. I urge you to vote yes on AB 1354.
Thank you very much for your very powerful testimony. Thank you for being willing to come and share with us today. Next witness.
I'll keep my comments very brief. I'm Lucy Salcido-Carter, advocate with the Youth Law Center. We're sponsoring this bill because we know that without supports to help youth transition from juvenile court school back to their community school, many of them will drop out of school altogether. And Ms. Thomas's testimony really exemplifies that, unfortunately. And we know that education is key to giving youth, especially youth with juvenile justice system involvement, opportunities to develop the skills and knowledge they need to prepare for their future and have a productive life. Unfortunately, young people like Ms. Thomas are leaving juvenile facilities. They are struggling to get re-enrolled in their community schools. They're struggling to get credit for the work they do in the court schools, and they aren't getting into the courses that they need to continue their academic progress. AB 2276 was one of the bills that Assemblymember Gibson mentioned. A work group from that bill made recommendations that are reflected in this bill. And I'd just like to say that I think it's good policy to follow recommendations that come out of work groups that are assigned by the legislature rather than having them sit on a shelf. So by supporting AB 1354, you have the opportunity to advance legislation that builds on former legislation and on the recommendations of experts appointed by the legislature. And you also have the opportunity to strengthen the likelihood that vulnerable youth will be able to continue their education and thrive and become productive, healthy members of society. So I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Others in support?
Irving Alvarez, Youth Justice Coalition, Brothers and Sisters Coalition. As a product of school to prison pipeline, it's an embarrassment that we can't heal these teens mentally, physically, and emotionally. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and organization, please.
Kim McGill from the Youth Justice Coalition, full support. And Zari, we're so proud of you and love you so much. Thank you.
Alejandro Contreras, on behalf of the National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, in support.
Julissa Ruiz Ramirez, student at CSU Stanislaus, in support of this bill.
Mary Rowe, faculty member, Stan State. I am in full support of this bill. Thank you.
Elvia Olea, student at California State University Stanislaus, currently counselor 1 at an STRTP program, and complete support.
Tavika Best, Modesto Junior College, psychology student, in full support.
Dimson McFadden, student at Stanislaus State, and I'm in full support.
Dr. Reverend Civil Rights and Human Rights, and I support this bill. I support this bill. I'm here for moral support. God bless you.
Thank you. Any additional support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments, concerns? Senator Durazo.
I just want to thank the young lady. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Senator Durazo. The bill's been moved by Senator Pan. Assemblymember, would you like to close?
Thank you very much, Senators, for allowing us to present Assembly Bill 1354. We think this is a common sense piece of legislation that's before you, and I want to also give kudos to Ms. Thomas for giving an excellent testimony. I cannot say it better. These are for vulnerable youth. Thank you for standing up and being here. You're a great example, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 11, AB 1354. The motion is due pass to public safety. Leyva. Aye. Leyva, aye. Wilk. Chang. Durazo. Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer. McGuire. Pan. Aye. Pan, aye.
Very good. Thank you, Assemblymember. We'll leave that bill on call.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Assemblymember Chu. Come on up. That is file item 13, AB 1518. Thank you for your patience, Assembly Member. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Senator. I'm here to present AB 1518, which is to make a minor change to comply with our recent NCAA ruling, which affect a very small amount of student athletes. AB 1518 will make sure that our California student athletes are kind of not be penalized for not complying with this NCAA ruling. So it enjoyed bipartisan support in the BNP committee, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Any witnesses in support?
Tyler Aguilar on behalf of the University of California. I did want to note we are not a sponsor, but we are very supportive of the measure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Andrew Martinez, California State University, also in support.
Ana Alvarado with Cruz Strategies on behalf of Stanford University in support.
Kathleen Soriano with the University of Southern California in support.
Susan Reyes with AICCU, the Association of Independent California Colleges and Universities, in support.
Thank you. Any additional support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing and hearing none, we'll come back to the committee. Questions, comments, concerns? Dr. Pan.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. I know we heard the bill along with the chair and BNP, and I had expressed some concerns, not so much with the bill itself, but as with the approach. I recognize that while certainly heard some of the universities who are supporting testify, no one came up to the table here, but so I certainly understand like what you're doing in the bill and why, and in order to try to help some of the student athletes, we're trying to conform to NCAA rules, and so certainly that's understandable. But I think as I expressed in BNP, I also was hoping that our higher education institutions would not just conform to NCAA rules, but actually lead to change the ones that are less appropriate, right? And that they need to be stronger advocates for the students. And because after all, the NCAA are the universities themselves. I mean, it's not some outside entity. It's composed of university presidents. It's the universities who govern those. So, so with that, certainly, and I realize that you're not trying to tackle all those issues with your bill, so I appreciate you bringing your bill forward. I recognize your bill does do some very important things. I would just, but I would just say for the universities who are here, I do hope and expect that the university will take a stronger lead. I mean, within the organization, it is universities, and advocate more for students. So with that, while I stayed off in BNP, I'll vote for the bill today because I think overall your specific bill, the policy is appropriate, but I certainly hope the universities understand that we are going to expect more from them than they have so far in terms of leadership and taking on issues that the NCAA has imposed on students that I think are unjust and unfair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pan. Any other questions or comments? Senator Durazo.
Yeah, I share with my colleague the concerns as far as this not being the bar that we're looking to get to. And that's my concern, is that this could be interpreted as, okay, we did this, so that's the end of the conversation, and that's far from the end of the conversation. So I'm concerned, and I have mixed feelings for that, because obviously we all try to take steps forward, but not if it's going to be used in such a way that would harm how much more progress we could make.
Thank you very much. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Thank you very much. I'm very proud to report that just yesterday, my committee, Assembly Committee, and our Entertainment, Sports, Tourism, and Media Technology just got the Senator Nancy Skinner's bill out of our committee regarding to this NCAA student athlete and their scholarship and status. So we're moving ahead.
Very good. Thank you, Assembly Member. Do we have a motion? Thank you. The bill has been moved by Senator Pan. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 13, AB 1518, the motion is due pass to judiciary. Leyva. Aye. Leyva, aye. Wilk. Chang. Durazo. Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer. McGuire. Pan. Aye. Pan, aye.
We will leave that bill on call. Thank you very much. All right, members, we are moving to file item 15, Assemblymember Rubio, AB 1645. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Thank you for the time to present AB 1645 today. This bill will designate a Dream Resource Liaison at California public colleges and universities. Since the implementation of AB 540, the California DREAM Act, and other meaningful pieces of legislation, access and affordability to higher education is now attainable for our undocumented student population. It is estimated each year that approximately 65,000 undocumented students graduate from high schools, and while California has taken the lead to enact legislation to provide opportunities for undocumented youth, only 20% of these students attend college. We must do more to help undocumented students and their families navigate the higher education system, especially since there is no end in sight for the federal administration's constant threats to DACA. Undocumented students, centers, and staff play a critical role at our colleges and universities as immigration policies rapidly shift at the federal level. Establishing a permanent and institutionalized Dream Resource Liaison on California colleges and universities will provide undocumented students with adequate educational support. With me today, I have Eva Jimenez, a youth organizer with the California Dream Network, to testify in support of the bill.
Welcome.
Hello, it's an honor to be here representing the California Dream Network. It consists of over 40 campuses, colleges, and universities across the state of California. And I've been very privileged to meet some of these students who are activists for their undocumented and immigrant communities. And I've asked them what a Dream Liaison and a Dream Center would mean for them. And what they've told me is basically it's a safe and inclusive space for them. It's very obvious that during this time, many of us feel unsafe and sometimes even attacked within our campuses. And this is a safe space for students. This is a place where they can be themselves, where they can have the confidentiality and the opportunities to be able to work amongst themselves, to be able to get the resources they need. And that was another point they wanted to make, was that there are so many resources available on college campuses, but the resources are sometimes very centered around residency and citizenship for students, and a center, having a Dream Liaison, having a Dream Center would allow students to be able to get access to these resources, and many of them, they don't really know what opportunities are there out there for them, especially during the times that immigration debates have the system very fluctuated, where we don't know what's going on sometimes. And that's what this bill would allow students to be able to have that space and that person that will direct them to the right resources that they need. And I would like to highlight one of our members. Her name is Eva Bernal, and she actually fought for a Dream Center at her college, Sierra College. And my main concern we're really proud of the work she did, but our main concern is that a student should not have to go through all these difficulties to be able to get the resources and the help they need. It should be able to be there for them when they go to their college or university. And as a recent UC Davis graduate, I'm very proud to say that UC Davis had the first AB 540 Undocumented Student Center, so that was really helpful, and that's how I'm able to stand here before you as a first-generation undocumented student graduate. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing your story. Next witness.
Christopher Sancho, the chair of the Coalition for Maine Immigrant Rights, proud to be a sponsor of this measure. Here for any technical questions the committee may have.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in support?
Richard Torres with the California DREAM Act, a proud sponsor of the bill.
Julissa Ruiz Ramirez, immigrant student at CSU Stanislaus and also part of the CDN, in strong support of this bill.
Elvia Olea, student at California State University Stanislaus, in support of the bill. Thank you.
Mary Rowe, faculty member, CN State, in very strong support of this bill. Muchísimas gracias.
Dimson McFadden, student at Stanislaus State, and in very strong support of this bill.
Davika Best, student at Modesto Junior College, very strong support of this bill.
Mary Washington with the Cal State Student Association in support.
Jake Bremner on behalf of the Campaign for College Opportunity, as well as the California Undocumented Higher Education Coalition that we're proud to facilitate, and we're all in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Brandon Biggert with the California Student Aid Commission in support. Alejandro Contreras, graduate student at University of Southern California, and on behalf of the National Association of Social Workers, California chapter in support.
Manny Rodriguez on behalf of the Education Trust West here in support.
Nick Romley on behalf of the Western Association for College and Mission Counseling in support.
Andrea Rivera on behalf of the California Immigrant Policy Center in support.
Thank you. Are there any additional witnesses in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Bring it back to the committee. Senator Durazo, do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
I want to thank the author and the witnesses very much for proposing this. Just a question. I noticed that the bill requires the community college level and the Cal State University level, but doesn't require on the UC campus level, that it's more of a request?
Right.
Is that a right interpretation? And if that's true, could you explain why?
Yes, that's correct. We tried the bill last year, and the governor vetoed it, and so this was the compromise to try and move the bill forward.
But can you explain why the UC in particular, with all its resources, wouldn't do it? Please proceed.
Unfortunately, the legislature can't require the UCs to do anything, so they would have to request the University of California to do it. So they can only make a request.
Okay, it's constitutional.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Very good.
We're kindly asking for it.
Thank you. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Thank you. As we all know, Dreamers have made California better with their countless and relentless advocacy efforts. These students, like me, came to the United States for a better opportunity, and it's our duty to create policies that will lead them to a successful future. And I, as a former school teacher, I can tell you that all the resources that can be provided for students can make them successful, and we can have more students standing before us as college graduates. And with that, I just respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you, Assembly Member. The bill has been moved by Senator Durazo. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 15, AB 1645. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk? Chang? Durazo? Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer? McGuire? Pan?
That bill on call. Thank you very much. All right, members, we have reached our last bill of the day. File item 19, Assembly Member Ramos. It is AB 1767. Come on up and proceed when you're ready.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. AB 1767 expands the suicide prevention policies that school districts develop for grades 7 through 12 to include a policy on youth suicide prevention for K to 6th grade. Suicides in all parts of our society, in all ages, ranges in an epidemic, and while the issue of adolescent suicide has received focus and resources in recent years, rates of self-harm and suicide among the youngest in our communities have tragically increased. While other resources school districts provide are expansive to most age ranges, suicide prevention policies are grade exclusive, only targeted at grades 7 through 12. These grades exclusively policies can leave behind students whose risk of suicides has risen in recent years. Across our state, we have heard far too many tragic stories and have seen far too many tragic youth suicides. In one case, in my district, a student who took their own life was only 10 years old. And during this time, there was about 6 suicides that took place in our district within the last 18 months. That draws attention to the much-needed legislation that we're talking about here today. School districts and schools and educators need to be prepared to identify warning signs and intervene early to save lives. We understand that these issues are sensitive. That's why this bill will ensure that these policies are specifically created to be age appropriate. AB 1767 seeks to build on the work of local educational agencies by expanding suicide prevention policies to begin to address youth suicide. In doing so, will focus local education agencies' attention on addressing the risk of youth suicide early on, preventing future youth suicides within our communities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Are those in support? No one in support? Is there anyone in opposition to the bill? All right, we'll bring it back to the committee. Any questions, comments, concerns? Senator Razo.
Yes, I want to thank the author very much. Our office is next to an organization, community organization that provides mental health and counseling for youth, and similar stories have been told to me about youth as young as 10 years old, either attempted suicides. So I'm really glad that you're using this bill to raise a consciousness around it so that we all can be much more aware and helpful as much as we can. No one, especially children, should be out there on their own without the resources. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
I'll be glad to move, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Durazo. Would you like to close, Assembly Member?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. And this is a very topic that's needed in our communities to start the dialogue around youth suicides in the early ages that it's happening, specifically here within this bill, targeting being more proactive and getting those issues out there ahead of time through the K through 6th grade. These issues are much needed, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Assembly Member. The bill has been moved by Senator Durazo. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item 19, AB 1767. The motion is due pass to appropriations. Leyva.
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk. Chang. Aye. Chang, aye. Durazo. Aye. Durazo, aye. Glazer. McGuire. Pan.
Leave that bill on call. Thank you very much. All right, members, we have reached the end of our agenda, but we do need to do the consent calendar. Do I have a motion? Thank you. The consent calendar has been moved by Senator Durazo. The items on consent are item 6, AB 1075. Item 7, AB 1085, item 8, 1097, item 9, AB 1214, item 10, AB 1319, item 17, AB 1727, consent as amended. We have one item, IB 14, AB 1595. And if there's nothing that anyone wishes to remove, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Leyva.
Aye.
Leyva, aye. Wilk. Chang. Chang, aye. Durazo. Durazo, aye. Glazer. McGuire. Pan.
Thank you very much. We are going to start lifting the call on bills. So if you have not been here the entire time and have bills to vote on, please come on back to Senate Education. Welcome, Senator Chang. We are going to lift the calls on, I think, all the bills for you. So, Madam Secretary, please start.
Item 1, AB 130. The motion is due pass to governmental organization with the chair voting aye. Vice chair hasn't voted, 3-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. McGuire? Pan? Item 2, AB 324, the motion is due pass to Human Services with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. McGuire? Item 3, AB 331, the motion is due pass as amended to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 2-0. Wilk? Chang? Glazer? McGuire? Item 4, AB 1001, the motion is due pass as amended to Human Services with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 3-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. McGuire? Pan? Item 5, AB 1051, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye 4-0. Chang? Chang, aye. McGuire? Pan? Item 11, AB 1354, the motion is due pass to public safety with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 3-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. Glazer? McGuire? Item 12, AB 1460, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 2-0. Wilk? Chang? McGlazer? McGuire? Pan? Item 13, AB 1518, the motion is due pass to judiciary with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 3-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Chang, aye. Glazer? McGuire? Item 15, AB 1645, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 2-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Chang? Glazer? McGuire? Pan?
1645 Rubio.
Item 15, AB 16, okay, Pan, aye. Chang? Glazer? Item 15. Glazer, aye. McGuire? I was on item 15, I was repeating it, so now we're on 18. Item 18, AB 1729, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye 4-0. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Item 19, AB 1767, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 3-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Glazer? Aye. Glazer, aye. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. And then we have consent calendar for the vice chair.
We will now do the consent calendar.
Consent calendar with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 3-0. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Glazer? Glazer, aye. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye.
Let's start from the top and go back through. Item 1.
Item 1, AB 130, the motion is due pass to governmental organization with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Item 1.
Yes, for item 1.
Item 3, AB 331, the motion is due pass as amended to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair not voting, 2-0. Wilk? Chang? Glazer? McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Item 4, AB 1001, the motion is due pass as amended to Human Services with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Item 5, AB 1051, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. McGuire? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Item 11, AB 1354, the motion is due pass to public safety with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. Glazer? Glazer, aye. McGuire? Item 12, AB 1460, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair hasn't voted, 2-0. Wilk? Chang? Glazer? McGuire? Pan? Item 13, AB 1518, the motion is due pass to judiciary with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. Glazer? Glazer, aye. McGuire. Item 15, AB 1645, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 5-0. Chang, McGuire, Pan. I'm sorry, Pan already voted aye. Pan was aye.
You're good.
Pan, yeah, you were, please, aye. Item 18, AB 1729, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire. I think that's it. Let me just check the consent calendar.
You voted on
You're good.
everything?
You're good.
Okay. Welcome, Senator McGuire. We are going to start at the top, file item 1. It's because it's freezing in here. All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the open items.
Item 1, AB 130, the motion is due pass to governmental organization with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
That bill is out, 7-0.
Item 2, AB 324, the motion is due pass to Human Services with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is out.
Item 3, AB 331, the motion is due pass as amended to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair not voting, 3-0. Wilk, Chang, Glazer, McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
4-0, that bill is out.
Item 4, AB 1001, the motion is due pass as amended to Human Services with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is out.
Item 5, AB 1051, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is out.
Item 6, AB 1075, the motion is, oh, I'm sorry, that's consent. Sorry. I'm sorry, that's consent. Item 11.
All good.
AB 1354, the motion is due pass to public safety with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is out.
Item 12, AB 1460, the motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair not voting, 2-0. Wilk, Chang, Glazer, McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye. Pan?
That bill does not have enough votes to get out. It has failed, but without objection, we will grant reconsideration.
Item 13, AB 1518, the motion is due pass to judiciary with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye, 6-0. McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is out.
Item 15, AB 1645. The motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye 5-0. Chang, McGuire. McGuire, aye.
6-0, that bill is out.
Item 18, AB 1729. The motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye 6-0. McGuire. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is out.
Item 19, AB 1767. The motion is due pass to appropriations with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye 6-0. McGuire. McGuire, aye.
7-0, that bill is also out. Thank you, Senator McGuire. Oh, we just need to do the consent calendar.
Consent calendar with the chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye 6-0. McGuire. McGuire, aye.
7-0, the consent calendar is confirmed as well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. The Senate Education Committee is adjourned.